Got Russian field hospitals being constructed near the border with Ukraine in Belarus. Got more battalion tactical groups actually being brought closer to the border.
NATO's Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg said he's cautiously optimistic, but hasn't seen any sign of de-escalation on the ground.
Prince Andrew has reached an out-of-court settlement with a woman suing him for sexual assault. The British royal is set to make a substantial donation to charity, as FSN's Sarah Walton reports from New York.
A statement from Prince Andrew's legal team says they'll file for dismissal once Virginia Giuffre has received the settlement, which isn't disclosed but is described as a substantial amount. Ms Giuffre was suing the prince, claiming that she was forced to have sex with him when she was a teenager, during a period when the prince was friends with New York financier Jeffrey Epstein, who died while awaiting trial for sex trafficking charges in 2019. Prince Andrew had strongly denied the allegations against him. The statement says the settlement will be paid to Ms Giuffre's charity in support of victims' rights. It goes on to say the prince never intended to malign her character and that he will fight against the evils of sex trafficking.
Lawyers for Helena Hutchins' family have filed a wrongful death suit against the actor Alec Baldwin, who's accused of killing the cinematographer on the set of the movie Rust 4 months ago. The actor has claimed he had no idea the gun that he fired was loaded with real bullets, as FSN's Nina Maria Potts reports.
Alec Baldwin is accused of firing the bullet that killed Helena Hutchins on the set of the movie Rust in New Mexico, a bullet that also struck director Joel Souza. The prop gun was not supposed to have been loaded with live rounds. Helena Hutchins' husband, Matthew, has filed the suit on behalf of himself and his son, Andros, alleging that Alec Baldwin recklessly shot and killed his wife. The actor has insisted he hadn't even pulled the trigger and that he had no idea there were real bullets in the gun.
From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, the emotions on the ground in the Ukrainian capital Kyiv amid apocalyptic warnings from the United States about the prospects for a Russian invasion. With more than 100,000 troops on Moscow's border with Ukraine, no military strategists envision circumstances under which the country could successfully defend itself against the Russian army. But then what? How would the Russians deal with opposition to their rule inside Ukraine? Ukrainian diplomat Vasyl Filipchuk in Kyiv says many people there do not believe the Russian president will risk a full-scale invasion.
If you make just basic calculation of benefits and losses which Russians would face, it leads every one of us to a conclusion it's insane. It would be the most stupid, the most irresponsible action from Russian side, and you can consider Russians in any way, but they're not idiots to do it. They would be really welcomed here, not with flowers, but with strong resistance. Country has strong army. Country has more than 400,000 people who participated in conflict in Donbass. So country is well prepared to. Why Putin would now do it, it's a question which no one answered.
But there are still grave fears in the US and Europe about the days ahead, with top officials on both sides of the Atlantic warning the outcome of Vladimir Putin's brinksmanship is deeply uncertain. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
And the main news again, US President Joe Biden says a Russian attack on Ukraine is still very much a possibility. It comes after Russia said it was pulling some of its troops back from the Ukrainian border. Prince Andrew has reached an out-of-court settlement with a woman suing him for sexual assault, and lawyers for Helena Hutchinson's family have filed a wrongful death suit against the actor Alec Baldwin, who killed her with a prop gun on the set of a movie. That's Feature Story News. Nick Harper reporting.
I'd like to tell you about our newest innovations in helping to keep our communities safe. Problem Creation Policing. Problem Creation Policing, or PCP, is a way to get the entire community involved in maintaining a safe neighborhood. This is more than just a neighborhood watch. We plan to have officers on the ground, helping, aiding, and surveilling for illicit activities. You never know when you're going to find some young punk doing something illegal out in public. That's why we're going to have officers everywhere. You never know when they're going to pop up. So we want PCP in our homes, at our jobs, and in our schools. We want PCP everywhere. How can you get involved in PCP? Well, for starters, you can call your local authorities and ask them how you can get PCP. I'm Byron Kingsley. from the citizens respecting the authority of police.
Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live. Welcome to the program. The phones are open here. If you want to join the show, you can do that. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Joining you tonight, it's Ian.
And nobody.
And, of course, the phones are open. You can bring up anything. That's the point of the program. There's just so much in the news to talk about, and of course we're continuing our ongoing coverage of what's been happening in Toronto. Not Toronto. Maybe there's something happening in Toronto, but I meant specifically Canada.
There's some in Toronto.
Are there some protests going on there?
Yeah, smaller.
Of course, the real ones to talk about are in Ottawa, where there are a ton of people there every single day. Lots of truck drivers in the streets, not blocking traffic because there is an open lane or so pretty much everywhere they are, but making their presence known, sitting there idling their trucks for now going into 3 weeks there in front of the Parliament building. Also at border crossings, as we were talking with someone from Calgary on the show last night who was explaining to us what was going on at a little town called Coots, which is right on the other side of the border from Montana, as well as other border crossings where, again, truckers, men and women on horseback, other people just in their normal vehicles are blocking the passages there. So very, very interesting. Of course, all of these protests are regarding all the various COVID restrictions in Canada. And wouldn't you know it, news is now coming out that the most restrictive province in all of Canada, the Quebec province, is now announcing that they are going to be removing the vaccine passports.
Oh, wow. Quebec's, they're control freaks out there.
Yeah, they're the ones that had a curfew during New Year's over a period of weeks. They're the ones that have been just insane with their enforcement and restrictions. Now they're saying that the vaccine passport will be dropped by March 14th. The measure will be gradually phased out over the coming weeks. Now, that's a full month from where we are today. So I don't think you can trust these people to actually do what they're going to say. I think they want the truckers to pull out and go home and say, all right, well, we've won.
They want to pull a Lucy.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, oh, wait, there's a new variant. We got to bring the vaccine passport back. And, of course, they could do that at any time as well, right?
Omicron Prime.
Indeed. But nonetheless, they are saying this. Alberta, as we learned last night, had already removed their vaccine passport requirement. Saskatchewan has also announced that they are removing theirs. And Ontario province has announced that as well. In fact, one of the stories we didn't get to about that is Doug Ford, who's the premier in Ontario province. You remember the crack-smoking mayor of Toronto years ago, Rob Ford?
Yeah, vaguely.
Yeah,
vaguely.
It was really entertaining. If you ever find that video, it's pretty fun to watch. He's dead, but his brother is still in politics, and they look basically identical. But Doug Ford,
I wonder if he faked it.
I don't know. But Doug Ford has announced that it has nothing to do with the reason why they're getting rid of the vaccination mandates there in Ontario. Doesn't have anything to do with the truckers. It's all about making his daughter happy, he says, according to the Beaverton.
So he doesn't give a damn about his constituents, is what he's saying.
Yeah. Yeah. During a press conference to announce that he would be ending Ontario's proof of vaccination system, Premier Ford claims... Oh, wait. Is this a fake story? Is this This might be a satire site. I'm actually not sure now. But let's see. He claimed that... clarified that he's not doing this to capitulate to the angry mob holding Ottawa streets hostage, but in fact to capitulate to his own anti-vaccine daughter, Krista, who kept asking.
Wow.
Folks, I'm not doing this because those protesters demanded it, even if I support their right to protest and remind them that their votes will count in this summer's Ontario election. I'm doing this because I have a well-documented history of putting my family's whims... Okay, this is satire.
Okay. They got you.
My family's whims before the needs of well-being of my constituents.
That's almost as good as our Big Igloo exchange.
He said, or have you all forgotten when I aggressively hid my brother's drug problem for years? He added, citing the platform he famously ran for premier on in 2018.
I don't smoke as much crack as my brother.
Asked about vaccine logistics, the premier clarified, quote, individual businesses and minimum wage employees are welcome to keep enforcing proof of vaccine, or at least welcome to try. Not gonna lie, he continued, these anti-vax convoy folks are pretty pumped up by today's announcement, so good luck stopping them from forcing their way in. Especially my darling little Krista. She was captain of her lingerie football team, so have fun blocking her at the door of your Arby's.
I'm sure there are plenty of restaurants that would be delighted to have business again.
Speaking of Krista, he said, I cannot wait to see the look on her little face when I tell her the good news. I love my little unvaccinated muffin so much, and by changing provincial health policy will definitely make up for the time I didn't buy her a pony when she was 8, he said.
Wow.
Despite Ford's insistence that
that got you?
I actually hadn't read the story.
You hadn't read it? Okay. I was going to say.
No, it was pretty clearly satire by the end of the second sentence. But I'm going to share it anyway, just because it's pretty good.
It's good satire.
Good satire has to feel like it could be real, right? Like it's usually based on some sort of kernel of truth. And of course, the kernel of truth here is that politicians are doing things for the politically connected and their family members and their friends, and not for the average person. That's what this is sharing, and it's absolutely spot on.
Yeah.
Despite Ford's insistence that he's caving to family as opposed to the hundreds of protesters who have ground Ottawa and Windsor's Ambassador Bridge to a halt this month, many convoy members are still claiming victory. Unvaccinated trucker Scott Longdon of Calgary said, quote, sure, Dougie says he's doing it for his daughter and her ex-cop husband, but remember, they're part of our protest, so that counts as a win for us. It's like we always say, where we go one, we go all, which is a QAnon thing, which we also believe. Thanks, Krista and Doug.
God.
I don't know. This seems like almost seems like leftist satire in a way.
Yeah, it really does. The idea that the fact that somebody says my body, my choice doesn't necessarily make him a QAnoner.
Right.
As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure the QAnoners would differ with the whole my body, my choice on some major issues.
I bet they would. That's the one thing about these conservatives, that libertarians need to be concerned or be careful that they think that the conservatives are all of a sudden pro-freedom. Because you have to remember, whenever the liberals crack down on freedoms, the conservatives adopt all the libertarian talking points about freedom and liberty, etc., etc.
But they only oppose liberal tyranny. They don't mind conservative tyranny.
Correct. As soon as, the Satanists get into the news, then the conservatives start to freak out.
Is Ari in the news again?
No, not right now, but there was something recently, and I don't know what it was, but the Satanic Temple or somebody like that was in the news again, and the Satanic Panic conservatives came right out and said, oh my God, we can't have freedom of speech because of these people, crack down, etc., etc. And they don't believe in freedom. They don't believe in my body, my choice. But that said, I think we should welcome anybody, whether they be conservative or liberal. We all started somewhere,
and it's a sliding scale. There are some conservatives are much more libertarian than others. There are some that are very close.
Yeah, and like I said, we all started somewhere. So, so it's better to be welcoming.
Hell, I was a socialist at 20.
And agree with them on the things on which we agree with them, and then gently, if possible, try to explain to them where they're being inconsistent and how they could remedy that situation. And I think that we've had some good progress in that area over the last couple of years. I mean, you and I have been out to some of these events, which have been primarily, Trumpers and conservative types that have come out to oppose things like vaccine mandates and COVID restrictions. And I think those are important networking occasions where we can find some common ground.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's true of Black Lives Matter and Occupy and things like that as well.
I've been actually delighted that there are some left figures that are definitely starting to get on the ball. Bill Maher. And Jimmy Dore.
Who is that?
He's a comedian. He does a pretty good show.
So he's speaking out.
Yeah, and the funny thing is listening to call the government out on all their medical lies and then say the government should make all your medical decisions.
More coming up. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover springs her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
Are you tired of governments around the world killing innocent people? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin is money that cannot be inflated or controlled by any state. By continuing to use their money, you're perpetuating the killing. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available to you now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. It's Bitcoin.com.
Hi, I'm Derek J. I don't want a politician to represent me. To me, government is the idea that one group of people can coerce everyone to comply with an edict, or face increasing punishments up to and including death. Despite perhaps the most noble of intentions, the best government services are a far cry from what could be provided for by voluntary interactions. Besides, the people who call themselves the government wage wars and put peaceful people in jail for crimes involving no victims. If Starbucks used some of its money to drop bombs, I wouldn't shop there. So why would I support the American empire? The empire does not require my consent.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. That's victimlesscrimespree.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's Antiwar.com.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live phones are open. You can join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. And you can bring up whatever's on your mind. Ian and Nobody in the studio here tonight. And I do want to make sure you know about Bitcoin.com. That is where you can go to learn about cryptocurrency like Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. Cryptocurrency is a very important concept, and there are some basics, some new ideas that you ought to get understanding. You should become familiar with if you're going to get into these ideas. If you want to do a little investing, buy a few cryptos here and there. Go over to Bitcoin.com, click Get Started at the top of the page, and you can watch some of the introductory videos that they have there, which will, again, give you some of the basics over at Bitcoin.com.
A great intro to cryptocurrency would be buy yourself some and send it to the Canadian truckers.
Indeed. There must be another fundraiser that's up, but there was a website we found last night. I'll see if we can pull it up, that listed some crypto addresses that people would be able to contribute to. One of them was Truckers. If you go to truckers.clouthub.com/donate, that's truckers.clouthub.com/donate. There are lists of cryptocurrency addresses there, and you can contribute to them. As we learned last night, the centralized fundraisers have either been frozen, taken down, or hacked, or the funds have been frozen in the banks. I mean, it's basically impossible for these truckers to get anything through the banking system at this point.
Yeah, the only two ways to donate that I know of is, I know some people are just walking up and handing them cash.
Yep.
But, of course, for us that would be like a military operation sneaking into
across
Canada.
The border.
And crypto, Yeah. And if you just hand them cash, then it's just like one random trucker and you don't really know what he's going to do with it.
Well, if he's at the actual protest, then presumably he's going to feed himself or buy some gasoline.
Yeah, I mean, if nothing else, you're going to hook him up. And, it's good to be hooked up when you're doing activism. Activism is hungry work.
Yeah, and if you are in Canada and, you can make the trip down to one of the border crossings or get to Ottawa, then you should do that just to show your support, to get down there, be another body among the thousands that are there, meet people, have a good time, and hand some cash to some of the truckers. But otherwise, cryptocurrency is a great solution, so that's an option for you. Get over to Bitcoin.com, though. You do need to get over a little bit of a learning curve before you can do your first crypto transaction, so you should learn the basics at Bitcoin.com. Click Get Started at the top of the page. As we go to Sam, he's in Ohio. Sam, you're on with Ian and Nobody.
How do you guys handle when Sarah calls in? Like, how does that not drive you up the bleeping wall?
How do we handle what?
When Sarah calls in from New Mexico?
Oh. Well, I used to program 8-bit microprocessors, so, I've dealt with dafter beasts.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I'm always curious as to what she's going to bring up next. She has expanded her repertoire. She used to just call in about traffic law related stuff, like red light cameras and people getting hit, at intersections or whatever. And it used to be pretty repetitive. But to her credit, she has become more interested in other topics and does have a good
She's
variety.
Gone communist, so that's hardly a credit to her.
She was communist before.
Was she?
Yeah. She every now and then she'd get into it, and she gets into it more now, which is more fun. I mean, I like talking to people I don't agree with, right?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, it's.
Go
ahead.
What I guess what I'm saying is, like, how do you mentally prepare yourself for that?
I don't know if there's. I mean, maybe it's just because we do a talk show and we're prepared for anyone to call in. At least I am. I can't speak for you, Nobody, but you're old hat at this now. At this point, I mean, there's no preparation needed for me.
I mean, I just slap myself with a wet noodle a few times before I go on the air. So
do you do that before when you're at home, or you step in the bathroom?
Yeah, I don't pull out my noodle.
Okay. So yeah, Sam, I mean, it's just, you do a talk show. If you do a talk show where it's open phones like we do, then you just you understand that you accept whatever comes in. I mean, there's going to be great callers and there's going to be not so great callers, and We hope for more of the former, but we'll deal with the latter as best we can and make them as interesting as we can, and then we get rid of them once we're done with them.
And, I'm an old acid head, so, you hear some wisdom when you're chilling with tripping people, but you also hear some inane stuff.
So you're saying when people are all jacked up on that, they might be saying stuff like she is?
Yeah. Well, it's like Jerry Garcia said, sometimes you want to play your guitar for 6 hours, and sometimes you just want to stick your head in a bucket of Jell-O.
I don't remember if Sarah has admitted what kind of drug use, if any, that she's had in the past. We've had so many calls with her.
No, she did.
She did? What did she say?
She said she had tried crack before.
Well, so has nobody.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it was kind of an experiment. What I did was, I smoked it for about a few months, and basically the plan was I would smoke it until the first time it drove me to violate my own moral code, which eventually it did. Basically I jacked some crack off a sleeping hooker.
Did you realize in the moment that what you were doing was that violation, or was it later on? I mean, were you in the throes of it at the moment?
I knew it was wrong.
Yeah.
I just, I don't touch other people's stuff.
What was going through your mind in that moment?
Well, partially it was, I'll get her some more in the morning when we can get the crack man on the phone again. And partially it was, I don't care. But anyway, so I got myself to that point where I was, clearly being driven, and I was kind of irrational. I mean, the guy who was selling me the crack was like, dude, what are you doing?
Really?
Yeah. Well, he was actually a really cool cat. Didn't smoke it himself.
That's usually
Good
the best plan
judgment.
if you're going to be selling drugs like that.
Yeah. Otherwise, things get ugly. But anyway, so once I got to that point, I started dropping acid to see how long it would take me to get off it. And it took me 3 days. And I was ready to get off. And
So
I haven't
wait, just to
touched it
clarify,
since.
were you tripping all 3 days? You just kept dropping acid, or
I just kept dropping acid.
Interesting.
Yeah. And kept smoking crack.
You were doing that while you were doing the acid?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And it was like half of me was being a crackhead, and the other half of me was watching me be a crackhead, and that wasn't pretty.
Whoa. And then 3 days later, you just put it down, and then you moved back to Keene, and we're clean from that point?
Yep.
Nice.
Never touched it again.
Thank you, Sam, for the call tonight. Appreciate it. The number here is 603-283-6160. Coming up, Justin Trudeau's comments about China. It's Free Talk Live.
And now, time for something totally different. Intercoin is a project that's working to make crypto mainstream. We use the power of smart contracts to help any community in the world launch their own cryptocurrency. Ever wanted to release your own coin or build your own app to grow your business? Intercoin's team builds apps that have reached 9 million people around the world. And now it's time to help make a real social impact in your local community. Go to intercoin.org and join the movement. That's intercoin.org.
When we first started Intercoin about 3 years ago, we had a big vision to help every community in the world have access to the same tools that large states and federations do, to hold local elections on the blockchain, to have their own local currency, shop local, hire local, and help fight the forces of globalization that have decimated some of these communities.
Go to intercoin.org and join the movement.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper. US President Joe Biden says a Russian attack on Ukraine is still very much a possibility. It comes after Russia said it was pulling some of its troops back from the Ukrainian border. NATO says so far there have been no signs of de-escalation and are demanding proofs of the Russian claims. President Biden also said the US had not seen any evidence of Russian troops pulling back and added, as such, the US is prepared no matter what happens. Meanwhile, UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson says there are mixed signals coming from Russia, as FSN's Giles Gibson reports from London.
After Russian claims that troops are being moved back to their home bases following military drills, UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson chaired a meeting with his cabinet. He says the UK and its allies haven't taken their eyes off the border between Russia and Ukraine.
The intelligence that we're seeing today is still not encouraging. We've got Russian field hospitals being constructed near the border with Ukraine in Belarus. We've got more battalion tactical groups actually being brought closer to the border.
NATO's Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg said he's cautiously optimistic, but hasn't seen any sign of de-escalation on the ground.
Prince Andrew has reached an out-of-court settlement with a woman suing him for sexual assault. The British royal is set to make a substantial donation to charity, as FSN's Sarah Walton reports from New York.
A statement from Prince Andrew's legal team says they'll file for dismissal once Virginia Giuffre has received the settlement, which isn't disclosed but is described as a substantial amount. Ms. Giuffre was suing the prince, claiming that she was forced to have sex with him when she was a teenager, during a period when the prince was friends with New York financier Jeffrey Epstein, who died while awaiting trial for sex trafficking charges in 2019. Prince Andrew had strongly denied the allegations against him. The statement says the settlement will be paid to Ms. Giuffre's charity in support of victims' rights. It goes on to say the prince never intended to malign her character and that he will fight against the evils of sex trafficking.
Lawyers for Helena Hutchins' family have filed a wrongful death suit against the actor Alec Baldwin, who's accused of killing the cinematographer on the set of the movie Rust 4 months ago. The actor has claimed he had no idea the gun that he fired was loaded with real bullets, as FSN's Nina Maria Potts reports.
Alec Baldwin is accused of firing the bullet that killed Helena Hutchins on the set of the movie Rust in New Mexico, a bullet that also struck director Joel Souza. The prop gun was not supposed to have been loaded with live rounds. Helena Hutchins' husband, Matthew, has filed the suit on behalf of himself and his son, Andros, alleging that Alec Baldwin recklessly shot and killed his wife. The actor has insisted he hadn't even pulled the trigger and that he had no idea there were real bullets in the gun.
From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
Hey, it's Free Talk Live. Phones are open. You can join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. With you tonight, you've got Ian.
And nobody.
603-283-6160. Want to say thank you, by the way, to Wordus, who is a Free Talk Live supporter via the AMPS program over at amps.freetalklive.com. It's a Patreon, and you can go and sign up as Wordus has done. He is doing gold level, which means he's supporting us for $10 a month. And we ask only for 5, so thanks, Wordus, for doing the extra 10 there, or the extra 5. Appreciate it. So head over to amps.freetalklive.com. It stands for Advertise, Market, Promote, and Support. It's a way for you to help us get the ideas of freedom onto more radio stations. We've got over 190 stations right now carrying the show throughout the week at various different times. We could have 250, 300. It is possible, but it takes time and it takes money to
Are there
market.
that many radio stations left?
There actually are a lot of stations out there, believe it or not. Radio is still alive. Whether it's well or not is another question. That's up to opinion. But we're still there, and the talk radio industry, there's probably about 800 stations roughly that I'm aware of, coast to coast. So we could probably hit upwards of 400 of them maximum. I would think, because you can't be on usually more than one per market.
Right.
So anyway, check out amps.freetalklive.com and help us out. You get some cool perks like Wordus over there.
Perks?
Yeah. Perquisites. So once again, it's amps.freetalklive.com. So this Justin Trudeau character, the there's an interesting theory that he is the son of Fidel Castro.
Fidel Jr.
And
which would be kind of funny because that would make him a Fidel by infidelity.
Indeed. Well, is it infidelity if you have the permission of the husband to cheat? You know, it's not cheating, right? Like infidelity is cheating, isn't it?
That's more cucking. What you think? You think Trudeau Sr. Sent his wife down there to get some commie sperm?
They say that they were swingers. They say that they were, in an open kind of relationship, and Trudeau Sr. was there with her, apparently. So, is that that's not infidelity, right?
That is not infidelity. Infidelity is breaking the agreement, whatever that agreement may be.
So the kid is a spitting image of old Fidel Castro. We've seen the imagery online, the
and
comparisons.
He thinks like him, too.
And that's what I wanted to share here, a clip from CBC News. This is Justin Trudeau speaking to an audience. I'm not sure when it was recorded, but it's very, very revealing. So, I mean, no one should be surprised by this, but let's just make it clear what he believes.
Even with Sun TV watching for any slip, he was asked which country he most admired and referred to China.
There's a level of admiration I actually have for China. Because their basic dictatorship is allowing them to actually turn their economy around on a dime and say, we need to go green as fast as we need to start, investing in solar. I mean, there is a flexibility that I know Stephen Harper must dream about of having a dictatorship that he could do everything he wanted. That I find quite interesting.
Yeah, Stephen Harper's dreaming about a dictatorship. What were you dreaming about, Justin?
Total control. Dear leader kind of stuff. And by the way, one thing maybe you can hear it in his voice, but I just want to be clear. His face is really bright as he's talking. He's got like a big smile on his face, and he's really excited and talking about this topic. It's really something that turns him on. You can tell. He's getting a real jolly off of this.
Wow.
So this reminds me of the old Bush line. Remember when George Bush was in office and he was talking about, I should be the dictator or something like that? Remember he's had some sort of quickie statement like that, or that he wished he could be the dictator?
Yeah.
So a lot of these guys, that's what they aspire to. They would do it if they could get away with it.
Monster.
Yeah. So there's that. And I think, that's not quite everything I have out of Canada. There's a little bit more here. So an update from Ottawa. Apparently, there's been a negotiation with the terrorists in Ottawa.
Somebody's talking to the government?
Yes. The Freedom Convoy has agreed with the Ottawa mayor and has agreed to move trucks out of so-called residential areas. According to FoxNews.com, quote, we've made a plan to consolidate our protest efforts around Parliament Hill, says Freedom Convoy President Tamara Litch in a letter to the mayor there, somebody named Watson.
They have a president?
Apparently. I've seen her name as a key organizer of this particular protest. She was one of the two names on the
you got to keep your keys organized with all those trucks.
Of the fundraiser. She was one of the key fundraisers. Adding that the Freedom Convoy board, so they apparently have a board of directors, agrees with the request to alleviate pressure on residential areas and that organizers are currently working to get the truckers to, quote-unquote, buy in. Quote, the Freedom Convoy board agree with your request to reduce pressure on the residents and businesses in the city of Ottawa. We have made a plan to consolidate our protest efforts around Parliament Hill. We'll be working hard over the next 24 hours to get buy-in from the truckers. We hope to start repositioning our trucks on Monday. So
maybe they can have some overflow parking on Trudeau's lawn.
They did try to go to his house. Did you see that news a couple weeks ago?
Oh, I didn't.
Yeah, it was at the very beginning of the occupation. Some of the drivers went down to Trudeau's house, and very much like when we went to the governor's house here in New Hampshire, there were cops crawling everywhere. In this case, they actually, unlike our governor here in New Hampshire, they in Ontario, they had blocked the driveway or whatever. They blocked the street, so they couldn't even get down the street to go to his house.
Wow!
But yeah, they definitely had a bunch of cops.
Politicians are such cowards.
They sure are.
It's like I would have been so much more impressed with Sununu, even being wrong, if he'd had the stones to step out there and argue his damn case.
Yeah.
You know?
Nope. He got in his car and sped off, is what he did.
Brave Sununu ran away. When danger reared its ugly head, he bravely turned his tail and fled. Sununu ran away.
Have you seen what he's doing now, though, acting like the brave freedom advocate? He's like teaming up with Jason Sorens from the Free State Project and doing press conferences about how New Hampshire is the freest state and wearing it like a badge, like he's the one who is responsible for it, taking the credit.
It's because we drug him kicking and screaming into a little bit of freedom.
Basically. Yep. And, of course, he's running for a re-election now, so he's got to start playing to his audience. So that's what he's doing. He's hoping everyone will forget what he did in 2020.
I remember.
Indeed. Nobody remembers.
Nobody remembers.
So back to the story here. The mayor of the city in Ottawa had written to one of the organizers saying residents are, quote, exhausted and on edge and that the blockades are, quote, teetering on the brink of permanent closure, unquote, for some businesses. He says, I don't believe these harmful effects on our community and its residents were the intended consequences of your protest. He said he wants to see clear evidence that trucks are being moved from residential streets by Monday and will meet with convoy organizers if they meet certain conditions.
What I'm trying to understand is why are the restaurants not making a fortune?
They're not open. They've decided they don't want to be open because I suspect they pander to the leftists in the city and they don't want to upset their usuals. That would be my guess.
Wow.
Because there's no other reason not to be open.
Their usuals certainly have high standards. I'm not going to complain if my favorite restaurant feeds people who disagree with me. I assume people who disagree with me eat at my favorite restaurant. As a matter of fact, I see them there because they come in with their little masks all scared with their tails between their legs.
Yeah, that's the best guess I can have. Noodles. I mean, if you've got a better idea as to why these restaurants are closed, I'd love to hear it. The number is 603-283-6160, because why would you close your doors when there are more people in the streets on a daily basis than ever?
It's like shutting your bar down during Mardi Gras.
603-283-6160. You can join us and bring up anything that's on your mind. 603-283-6160. More about the negotiations coming up. On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
You can help more people hear the message of liberty by joining Free Talk Live's AMPS program on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. And you'll get access to special perks. Visit amps.freetalklive.com, amps.freetalklive.com.
I'm a little obsessed with My Magic Mud. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, the founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I didn't even know my teeth were coffee stained. A week's worth of use convinced me, and now I use it every 3 or 4 days. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, and I think it cleans better, too. My Magic Mud's available at most local health food stores, Sprouts, Natural Grocers, CVS, Walmart's Natural Beauty Aisle, but I can get it for you for 20% off with coupon code FTL20 at mymagicmud.com. FTL20 mymagicmud.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live. You can join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. And you can join us in the studio with you tonight. You've got me, Ian.
And nobody.
We're continuing to discuss the latest on what's been happening with the Freedom Convoy in Ottawa and elsewhere. Of course, if you want to weigh in, you're welcome to. And maybe there's something else in the news that you think is important. I'm sure there are other news stories out there, and I do have some other show prep. But to me, this is the most interesting story in recent times, and it sure is a lot more interesting than COVID-related news. So I've been focusing on this stuff and cheering these guys on from here in New Hampshire.
Yeah. It's definitely the most interesting story. It's the first thing that's given me hope in a long time.
It's inspirational for sure. And whether it's going to inspire an actual U.S. version of this, that still remains to be seen. There's still some talk online that such a thing will spring up within the next few weeks. So certainly we will keep an eye on that if that develops. But meanwhile,
the restrictions are so spotty here.
Yeah, that's true. But meanwhile, the restrictions are being rolled back, supposedly, in a lot of the provinces of Canada, including even in Quebec, where they announced today that they are going to be removing the vaccine passport, they say, by the middle of next month. So we'll see. We're still waiting on that, but they did announce it. But we're also discussing how the folks there in Ottawa have been negotiating with the terrorists. The government mayor, the King gang member there in Ottawa, has sent a letter to, or an email or something, to the organizers of the protest, asking them to remove the truckers from residential areas, and they did agree to do that. And Watson is the name of the mayor. I think it's Jim Watson. Says he wants to see
elementary, my dear Watson.
Says he wants to see clear evidence that the trucks are being moved by Monday, and that's this past Monday. So presumably,
well, it's a truck. I mean, any movement is going to be pretty clear.
Indeed. And he says he will meet with the organizers if they meet certain conditions, as though like that. Why would they want to talk to this guy? I don't know.
Well, I mean, opening negotiations is an important part of winning.
Good point. First, he says they must remove all trucks from the residential district south of Wellington Street and from all other residential areas, including the market, the Ottawa Baseball Stadium on Coventry, etc. Second, they must agree not to backfill the residential areas currently occupied with trucks, other vehicles, and or demonstrators. What does it mean to backfill? Meaning once they move, not return? Is that the idea?
I guess.
Third, they must agree to not displace the truck convoy, vehicles, and or other demonstrators to other residential areas in the city of Ottawa. So,
and you know, that's just good sense. You don't want your I mean, as a person who's organized demonstrations, one of the things that I tried not to do is things that would get on my neighbor's last nerve.
Right.
And so it's probably good for both sides if they stay out of residential areas.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like an unreasonable request, but then again, what is the mayor going to give them in return? Usually when you make a negotiation for something, you give a little in order to get a little. But at the very least, this, again, it's the mainstream media that I'm sharing here, so maybe there was some sort of a concession. However, this more updated story just posted today suggests that maybe that's not happening. Maybe the mayor isn't actually going to give any ground, or maybe the truckers said, you know what, screw you, we're going to stay right where we are. I don't know, because man, this story that about the agreement was written like Sunday or Saturday. And now it's Tuesday, so supposedly the truckers should have been moved by now. But now you've got a story coming from the government's own propaganda ministry, the CBC News in Canada. Headline, armed with new police powers, they're working day and night to end the Ottawa occupation, says the public safety minister. His name, Marco Mendocino.
Of course, leading a protest is also a dicey thing because you don't have any actual authority. All you have is, you know, whatever charisma you can muster.
Right.
So, you know, you can agree to something, and you know, maybe the other protesters say, nah.
Yeah, and I don't know what their responses were, but maybe it didn't matter. Maybe this was just, you know, a stalling tactic ultimately to get to this next point, because they did pass the so-called Emergencies Act, or they invoked it recently. We discussed that last night, how Trudeau has, you know, invoked these special powers. And now, because of that, police will be establishing what they call no-go zones in the city's downtown core to control unruly crowds. You know, those people who are having dance parties in the streets? Those people, they're calling unruly.
Wow, that's so terrifying.
Associated with the anti-vaccine mandate convoy protest, said the minister. People who defy orders to leave, he added, will face fines or jail time or both. He said so-called authorities will move in with great rapidity to erect more concrete barriers and press private tow truck companies into removing the big rigs that have clogged Ottawa's streets.
One thing that I have that's at least being said on YouTube is that they are actually trying to buy up every used, the government is trying to buy every used tow truck they can find.
To actually run them themselves, because the tow truck companies they're refusing to cooperate, basically?
Yeah, although my understanding is, well, if their emergency statutes are anything like what's come out in what I've read about what's available to the President of the United States, I know that in a state of emergency, the President can basically just confiscate a private business and, you know, send the military in to run it, send whoever in to run it.
Yeah, they were doing that during COVID, where they would force businesses to start doing things like manufacture masks or manufacture hand sanitizer or something like that. I forget what the act that they would. It's like the War Powers Act or something like that.
War Powers is is actually, I think, the act they used to justify letting the president declare war instead of, but
it's one of those wartime things, though.
Yeah, it's
the government says we need more of this. We can force the industry to do this.
And the thing that I'm thinking of is actually a numbered executive order, although I don't recall the number. But I read it a long time ago.
In this case, they say here, the government's propaganda arm, that the Emergencies Act is essentially deputizing RCMP officers to act as local law enforcement in the city. So they're bringing in the equivalent of the FBI and having them enforce local statutes or ordinances. The federal police force typically does not carry out policing functions in the province of Ontario, but they will be charged with enforcing municipal bylaws and provincial statutes. Quote, "No one wants to see another weekend like the last 3 on Wellington Street.
I do.
Yeah, me too. I'm assured by my discussions with police that they fully appreciate that."
Oh, they're right. Nobody does.
We now depend on them. We now depend on them to do the job, he says. And there were thousands of people in the streets once again. So clearly a lot of people want to see these things continue because they keep showing up.
Yeah. Somebody wants to see another fun weekend for the first time in 2 years.
So, by the way, there's now rumor that the police chief of Ottawa has put in his resignation.
Oh, that would be good.
Which is interesting timing.
Yeah.
He's chosen now to go ahead and retire in the midst of all this.
Yeah. Well, I've seen some cops, including one of the RCMP guys who was on Trudeau's personal security staff resigned over this, and he basically
Are they speaking out as well?
Yeah, he actually gave a pretty moving speech.
Wow,
it was well done, and he was just like, I can't do this now. We're breaking the law. And this was, when the terrorists were still being a lot milder.
We continue here. Your calls and thoughts are welcome. The number is 603-283-6160. So they're sounding like they're going to crack down this week. The arrests and the targeting of activists started last week when they were arresting people over moving around with gas canisters in the streets. Now they're saying they're going to just have straight-up no-go areas where if you try to enter, you will be arrested. More coming up. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper. US President Joe Biden says a Russian attack on Ukraine is still very much a possibility. It comes after Russia said it was pulling some of its troops back from the Ukrainian border. NATO says so far there have been no signs of de-escalation and are demanding proofs of the Russian claims. President Biden also said the US had not seen any evidence of Russian troops pulling back and added, as such, the US is prepared no matter what happens. Meanwhile, UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson says there are mixed signals coming from Russia, as FSN's Giles Gibson reports from London.
After Russian claims that troops are being moved back to their home bases following military drills, UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson chaired a meeting with his cabinet. He says the UK and its allies haven't taken their eyes off the border between Russia and Ukraine.
The intelligence that we're seeing today is still not encouraging. We've got Russian field hospitals being constructed near the border with Ukraine in Belarus. We've got more battalion tactical groups actually being brought closer to the border.
NATO's Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg said he's cautiously optimistic, but hasn't seen any sign of de-escalation on the ground.
Prince Andrew has reached an out-of-court settlement with a woman suing him for sexual assault. The British royal is set to make a substantial donation to charity, as FSN's Sarah Wharton reports from New York.
A statement from Prince Andrew's legal team says they'll file for dismissal once Virginia Giuffre has received the settlement, which isn't disclosed but is described as a substantial amount. Ms. Giuffre was suing the prince, claiming that she was forced to have sex with him when she was a teenager, during a period when the prince was friends with New York financier Jeffrey Epstein, who died while awaiting trial for sex trafficking charges in 2019. Prince Andrew had strongly denied the allegations against him. The statement says the settlement will be paid to Ms. Giuffre's charity in support of victims' rights. It goes on to say the prince never intended to malign her character and that he will fight against the evils of sex trafficking.
Lawyers for Helena Hutchins' family have filed a wrongful death suit against the actor Alec Baldwin, who's accused of killing the cinematographer on the set of the movie Rust 4 months ago. The actor has claimed he had no idea the gun that he fired was loaded with real bullets, as FSN's Nina Maria Potts reports.
Alec Baldwin is accused of firing the bullet that killed Helena Hutchins on the set of the movie Rust in New Mexico, a bullet that also struck director Joel Souza. The prop gun was not supposed to have been loaded with live rounds. Helena Hutchins' husband, Matthew, has filed the suit on behalf of himself and his son, Andros, alleging that Alec Baldwin recklessly shot and killed his wife. The actor has insisted he hadn't even pulled the trigger and that he had no idea there were real bullets in the gun.
From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, the emotions on the ground in the Ukrainian capital Kyiv amid apocalyptic warnings from the United States about the prospects for a Russian invasion. With more than 100,000 troops on Moscow's border with Ukraine, no military strategists envision circumstances under which the country could successfully defend itself against the Russian army. But then what? How would the Russians deal with opposition to their rule inside Ukraine? Ukrainian diplomat Vasyl Filipchuk in Kyiv says many people there do not believe the Russian president will risk a full-scale invasion.
If you make just basic calculation of benefits and losses which Russians would face, it leads every one of us to a conclusion it's insane. It would be the most stupid, the most irresponsible action from Russian side, and you can consider Russians in any way, but they're not idiots to do it. They would be really welcomed here, not with flowers, but with strong resistance. Country has strong army. Country has more than 400,000 people who participated in conflict in Donbass. So country is well prepared to. Why Putin would now do it, it's a question which no one answers.
But there are still grave fears in the US and Europe about the days ahead, with top officials on both sides of the Atlantic warning the outcome of Vladimir Putin's brinksmanship is deeply uncertain. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
And the main news again, US President Joe Biden says a Russian attack on Ukraine is still very much a possibility. It comes after Russia said it was pulling some of its troops back from the Ukrainian border. Prince Andrew has reached an out-of-court settlement with a woman suing him for sexual assault, and lawyers for Helena Hutchinson's family have filed a wrongful death suit against the actor Alec Baldwin, who killed her with a prop gun on the set of a movie. That's Feature Story News. Nick Harper reporting.
Saying that a few images of displaced refugees would probably do the trick, Americans admitted this week that they could probably be talked into another war. Citizens nationwide told reporters that if they were to see a blurry satellite image of potential nuclear weapons or footage of an evil militant group, they could easily see themselves getting on board with another major military effort.
I'm not saying I'd be gung-ho about it right away, but if they called it something like a concentrated military operation or something other than war at first, I could see myself warming up to the idea. Honestly, just hearing a top official on TV say something like patriotic duty might clinch it.
And in this week's op-ed pages, an area man finds it's just his luck to lose thousands at the blackjack tables every night for the past few weeks. In other news, a senator tries submitting a rejected bill to the Canadian Parliament. What Mom would have wanted is evolving over the course of funeral planning, and a new report finds you're actually saving money with a Franklin Skate Center roller rink membership.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. The phones are open here. We're kicking off the second hour of the program, and you can join us. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Government gangsters in Ottawa are now saying they are going to use the new so-called Emergencies Act powers to establish no-go zones in the city's downtown core, where if you try to go into the zone or if you defy orders to leave said zone, they will possibly arrest you and find you. So that's their latest plot. We will continue to, of course, update you on what's transpiring the best we can, from given how far we are away from all the action. And we would be there if we could be, but there's two reasons why we can't. Number one, the Crypto 6 situation has us on some pretty restricted bail conditions. Are you prohibited from leaving New Hampshire under yours?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. And even if we could leave New Hampshire, Canada just doesn't want us.
It's true.
Turns out they don't like civil disobedience protesters in Canada.
Well, they're
and felons.
They seem very, very clear on that issue.
Yeah. There was a attempted.
On the other hand, if you are in Canada and if things get really ugly up there, consider the Free State Project. Especially if you got dual citizenship or you're pretty and you want to get married.
There you go. That Viva Frey guy on his YouTube channel, I saw a clip the other day. I think the Free State Project posted it, where he was interviewing somebody, in Ottawa or wherever, one of the protesters, and the dude started talking about, not Frey, but the guy just started talking about moving to New Hampshire. And Viva Frey mentioned that he'd heard about the Free State Project as a thing.
We should reach out to him.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, come on down. We'd love to have you. Let's go to, speaking of Free Staters, let's talk to Dave Ridley, one of the originals, one of the first movers here to New Hampshire as part of the Free State Project. Dave Ridley.
OG.
Calling us from New Hampshire. What's on your mind tonight?
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Hey.
I'm actually calling from Colorado. But I'm visiting Colorado.
Gotcha.
But do you remember Joel Winters, the Free Stater state rep?
Joel, yeah, he was one of the first state representatives as far as being elected as a Free Stater. That's true, yeah.
Yeah.
And he I don't think he's in New Hampshire anymore, but he is doing something that's kind of cool. And that is he is preparing a 3-week-long fast for September of 2022. It's to fast against political violence among the factions in the United States.
And where is he now, and how does he plan on bringing attention to this event? Because it's hard to get attention for something like a fast if people don't really believe you're being oppressed. They'll just ignore it.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is one of those things. It's like the independence drive in a sense that it seems like too far ahead of its time, or it's not, things aren't bad enough yet, that kind of thing. But he's projecting, as the rest of us are projecting, that things will get worse, and he's trying to, take some kind of action.
It's a fair projection.
At the point in time where he thinks things will get worse. Now, he thinks there'll be, violence connected to the November election, and he wants to do something to draw attention to his opposition to that. I don't think it's going to be a water-only fast. I think it will be a juice fast. So it doesn't sound like it will endanger his life. This does
he could
have,
just diet, which is fasting slowly.
Gandhi was able to stop. You probably saved about 2 million lives with his fast around 1948, or 47, where he where he was fasting against the violence that accompanied the British leaving. It was Pakistanis versus Hindus.
But wasn't his profile fairly high at the time at which he was doing that?
Right, and so that will be, and again, in a sense, it takes more courage for someone like Joel to do this because of the fact that he doesn't have a high profile, and it can kind of all be for nothing. That takes, in a sense, more guts than doing it when you've already got a profile.
Yeah, usually when you hear about fasting as a form of protest, it's usually like someone in prison, right? That somebody is in for some sort of wrongful charge, and in order to bring more attention to the conditions in the prison or the wrongful charges or whatever the situation is, that person will choose to fast. And then, they send supporters on the outside, send a press release out, and hopefully the news media picks up on it. This is going to be a tough one. I'd be interested to hear how it ends up panning out. Did you get a clue as to where he moved to?
South Carolina.
Oof. Gotcha. Man, there's always such a bummer when people leave New Hampshire and go elsewhere. I realize everybody's on their own path and they've got their reasons for doing that stuff. But man, if we could have retained half the people that we'd left over that had left over time, we would probably have a good chunk more people here in New Hampshire. Anything else, Dave, you want to share tonight?
Actually, a completely different piece of news. You guys talked about the latest news about Library.
What is the latest news? I mean, we love Library. It's a decentralized media sharing protocol. It is an amazing piece of software that helps people upload and protect media files. So it could be video, could be audio, could be a blog post, and keep them online forever. It's really awesome. People should check it out at lbry.com. They're the ones that created Odyssey, which is the new YouTube killer out there, and it's doing a great job. But
I actually need to talk to that guy about whether they're far enough along that I might be able to work them out as a streaming platform for Cell 411.
Oh, that's an interesting question. I know they're going to be doing some streaming upgrades this year. I saw in their announcement as far as what their plans are for 2022. But what is it specifically, Dave, that you're referring to as far as news regarding Library?
They're Manchester-based, and they are one of the attack on them by the Securities and Exchange Commission, the attack by the federal, is one of the reasons why we have pushed independence legislation in New Hampshire. This YouTube competitor, I guess they've been in front of the SEC with some kind of SEC filing or lawsuit now for, I think, almost 196 weeks, according to them.
Right.
And Library just reported that the SEC has requested another 8 weeks to continue gathering evidence with which to shake them down for $2 million.
Is that all they're demanding? I didn't know that there was a price tag on this yet. I know Library has spent over $1 million on attorney's fees and the various different time and effort they have to spend requiring jumping through all these government hoops and the depositions and the document requests and everything like that. Where did the $2 million number come from?
I heard it. I just don't remember where, and it may have gone up since then. I don't know.
Yeah.
But the Library, it's not like a criminal thing. They're claiming that Library's cryptographic token is a security, and thus they should have, filled out Form B7/6 instead of B7/7 or whatever. Libraries tried to operate within the system and jump through all the hoops, and it's just very difficult to do that. And I think, the fact that the SEC comes after people, and shakes them down, it's like they're making you try to make people complain, they say YouTube has the right to delete your video, and that's true. But if the competitors to YouTube are not allowed to operate freely, while YouTube is, then that's the reason why we need independence in New Hampshire. We need a free country where there's no federal government that can tell YouTube competitors that they have to act like censorship, or not like censorship, but that they're not allowed to compete freely with YouTube without
the other bizarre thing is a movie ticket a security? I mean, it seems like when you buy library, all you're doing is paying in advance for. I mean, you're going to spend that eventually, presumably, on content. So I don't see how that's more of a security than a magazine subscription or a YouTube a paid YouTube membership.
Yeah, I mean, the SEC may not have a leg to stand on, but that doesn't mean that it's not going to cost library a ton of money to basically make their case. And that's what they're trying to do. This is essentially lawfare, where they're coming after library, and there's no cost to the SEC because the taxpayers are paying their side of the attorney's fees.
They can rob us blind and use that money to persecute.
Let's talk about it more coming up. Free Talk Live. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
When a lunar observatory detects a radio broadcast originating from Proxima Centauri, the nations of Earth discover their first contact with an alien race may also be their last. With the Proximans facing an extinction-level disaster, Earth must choose between sending a ship on a multi-year journey or allowing nature to take its course. Saving Proxima, a hard science fiction thriller by Travis S. Taylor and Les Johnson from BaneBooks.com.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it! You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with agristhosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to agristhosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's agristhosting.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
How many lawyers does it take to change a light bulb? None. They'd rather keep their clients in the dark. There are too many lawyer jokes to count. However, there are some lawyers with more noble intentions. At the Institute for Justice, we bring the light to our clients. We are a non-profit public interest law firm with clear values and principles. At IJ, we fight for those whose most basic rights are denied by the government. Visit our website today at ij.org.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. The phones are open. You can join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, you got Ian.
And nobody.
You know, we've been telling you about how Intercoin can help any business and organization launch their own currency or raise money using their own token. And now Intercoin has launched its investor token worldwide, and for the first time, it's available on an exchange. You can go to xmarkets.com, exmarkets.com. Just an email address is all it's required to create an account there, so you can keep your privacy intact. If you like, you can deposit dozens of different cryptocurrencies, including Bitcoin, trade them for Tether, and then use that Tether to buy ITR, which is the Intercoin Investor Token. You can learn more about the Intercoin vision at intercoin.org and buy or sell ITR on xmarkets.com. It's exmarkets.com. You just might be advancing the cause of liberty around the world. Now, one of the things that Intercoin did when they first started up a little while back was that they were very, very cautious about all the SEC BS that they knew that they might face, and so they jumped through all the ridiculous hoops. I think that Library just said, look, we don't believe this thing is a security, this token that they have called the Library token.
I mean, I haven't really looked into their marketing materials or I mean, what exactly is the role of the token within the library system?
Good question. So my understanding of it, having been a user of Library since not quite the beginning, but really early on, Free Talk Live has been posting videos there for years on the Library system. And you need to pay to just a very small amount of a Library token, like 1% of one token, and I don't know, the current price is like 3 cents or something like that for an entire token, so you're paying a very, very small amount of money to actually post a piece of media to the Library system. So you're paying to do anything, right? Like with a lot of crypto-based systems, you have to pay a transaction fee to move things and do things. So there's a fee. You can bid up your post. So let's say with Library, there's an interesting naming system. Library is a decentralized, basically, it's kind of like a decentralized torrent system. So for listeners that aren't familiar, can you describe what a torrent is?
Yeah, BitTorrent is basically a peer-to-peer way of moving files around where as you download your file, if there are many people downloading a file, the server will be sending different parts of the file to each person who's downloading it, or the various servers. And then they can send the parts they have to each other.
Right. Even if they're not complete, even if they don't have the whole file, they can still serve the portions of it that they do
you can always serve, you can always give somebody else what you have, even if you don't have everything.
And so the idea is that if there are enough people who are what they call seeds in the torrent system, that will actually increase dramatically the potential download speeds that the next downloader can get. So if there's a system where there's only 10 seeds and they don't all have a lot of bandwidth, it might be okay. But if there's 100 of them, then you're going to go a lot faster. If there's 1,000 of them, those files are going to download in seconds in a lot of cases. So you're sort of using the power of the crowd in the cloud, if you will, to move files around and in a sort of a decentralized manner.
Yeah, and that also gives you some security advantages in terms of it's difficult to know who's serving what on BitTorrent.
In BitTorrent, you can get IP addresses for everybody that's serving, but they could be hiding behind Tor, or they could be hiding behind VPN. So you can achieve some privacy, but you, as the server, have to take steps. There's no privacy in the system by default, as I understand it.
Yeah, that's probably true.
That's how a lot of the media corporations will send out their cease and desist notices. Is they'll put their own torrent online for whatever it is that they want to enforce on, and then whoever it is that connects to that torrent, they just grab the IP address and send out a DMCA copyright notice to whichever corporation, internet service provider is behind that IP address, and then the corporation or the ISP sends the threat to the user associated with that IP.
Can you torrent over Tor? Is that?
I would presume you can.
I mean, there's no technical reason you shouldn't be able to, but I know that they at least encourage people to be stingy with their bandwidth.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. How common it is, I'm not sure. But certainly VPNs are a very common way for people to use torrents. Anyway, I didn't want to get too deep into the torrent discussion, but so the idea of the torrent is decentralize file service. Use multiple people connected together to serve files rather than just have because the standard way of downloading a thing is you have one server in a rack somewhere on the internet.
Not necessarily Iraq. It could be Iran. It could be Syria.
Right. One piece of hardware is the responsible thing, right? And if that server goes down for whatever reason, maybe it's technical, maybe they just didn't pay the bill, your file's gone. The file that you wanted to download is no longer available. Now, of course, centralized solutions have content manager, content delivery networks where there might be more than one server around, but that's all still run by one corporation. So torrenting truly decentralizes that. But the one thing torrenting doesn't have is it doesn't have an index. They have websites that do the index. So like the Pirate Bay is one of the most common ones, but that's still a centralized server. So now the Pirate Bay has mirrors, and there are other people who take the Pirate Bay's content and they put it on their site. So if the Pirate Bay main site goes down, there are alternatives. So the Pirate Bay's kind of tried to solve that problem over time. But still, the problem with these systems is they're centralized at their core. And so that's what LBRY purports to do, as I understand it. It basically takes the torrenting technology and it rolls it up with a blockchain-based index. So the files in LBRY aren't stored on the blockchain. The media files, the videos that you're seeing, the whatever it is that you might be watching on Odyssey, they're not stored on the blockchain. It would be
prohibitively expensive to store video files on the blockchain.
Right. So what the blockchain is doing is it's just acting as essentially the torrent index. And so it allows you to search, which is something that you generally can't do with torrents. And it allows an organizational system to exist, and so that's what they've done with LBRY, and they've rolled it into a blockchain, and so there's a token that's involved. And one of the things you can do with the token that's interesting is you can bid on the names. Because it's a decentralized system, there's no authority that can say you are the one true nobody. Right? Because there could be another nobody out there who wants to have his own channel, odyssey.com/nobody, right? So how do you discern which is the true nobody, which is the most popular nobody? Well, whichever one has the most LBRY tokens in their wallet. So that's how they decide, how to issue the /nobody, URL. You could lose it if somebody else comes in with more tokens.
Okay, yeah, there's something similar, I think, that's been done with DNS. I don't know if it's Namecoin or...
Namecoin's a really old decentralized domain name service.
Yeah.
There's more coming up here in moments. The number is 603-283-6160. But is it a security? And I want to continue. We'll discuss that coming up. It's Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live's video archives have been on LBRY for years. LBRY is an uncensorable, decentralized, blockchain-based media sharing protocol, and we're big fans of it here on Free Talk Live. In 2020, LBRY launched Odysee, a video sharing website to compete with YouTube, and it's really taking off, now with over 1 million channels, many of whom are disaffected YouTube creators. During YouTube's crackdown for not towing the government line on COVID, the Free Talk Live YouTube channel started receiving strikes and could be completely taken down at any moment. Thankfully, Odysee started offering live streaming, so we're now streaming live every night and posting our video archives permanently to Odysee. You can watch live or anytime on our Odysee channel by visiting video.freetalklive.com. If you want to go all in, download the desktop app at lbry.com, and then every video archive you watch, you'll help seed and keep it online forever. At minimum, we ask you visit video.freetalklive.com and follow us on Odysee today. video.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper. US President Joe Biden says a Russian attack on Ukraine is still very much a possibility. It comes after Russia said it was pulling some of its troops back from the Ukrainian border. NATO says so far there have been no signs of de-escalation and are demanding proofs of the Russian claims. President Biden also said the US had not seen any evidence of Russian troops pulling back and added, as such, the US is prepared no matter what happens. Meanwhile, UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson says there are mixed signals coming from Russia, as FSN's Giles Gibson reports from London.
After Russian claims that troops are being moved back to their home bases following military drills, UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson chaired a meeting with his cabinet. He says the UK and its allies haven't taken their eyes off the border between Russia and Ukraine.
The intelligence that we're seeing today is still not encouraging. We've got Russian field hospitals being constructed near the border with Ukraine in Belarus. Got more battalion tactical groups actually being brought closer to the border.
NATO's Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg said he's cautiously optimistic, but hasn't seen any sign of de-escalation on the ground.
Prince Andrew has reached an out-of-court settlement with a woman suing him for sexual assault. The British royal is set to make a substantial donation to charity, as FSN's Sarah Walton reports from New York.
A statement from Prince Andrew's legal team says they'll file for dismissal once Virginia Giuffre has received the settlement, which isn't disclosed but is described as a substantial amount. Ms. Giuffre was suing the prince, claiming that she was forced to have sex with him when she was a teenager, during a period when the prince was friends with New York financier Jeffrey Epstein, who died while awaiting trial for sex trafficking charges in 2019. Prince Andrew had strongly denied the allegations against him. The statement says the settlement will be paid to Ms. Giuffre's charity in support of victims' rights. It goes on to say the prince never intended to malign her character and that he will fight against the evils of sex trafficking.
Lawyers for Helena Hutchins' family have filed a wrongful death suit against the actor Alec Baldwin, who's accused of killing the cinematographer on the set of the movie Rust 4 months ago. The actor has claimed he had no idea the gun that he fired was loaded with real bullets, as FSN's Nina Maria Potts reports.
Alec Baldwin is accused of firing the bullet that killed Helena Hutchins on the set of the movie Rust in New Mexico, a bullet that also struck director Joel Souza. The prop gun was not supposed to have been loaded with live rounds. Helena Hutchins' husband, Matthew, has filed the suit on behalf of himself and his son, Andros, alleging that Alec Baldwin recklessly shot and killed his wife. The actor has insisted he hadn't even pulled the trigger and that he had no idea there were real bullets in the gun.
From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
This is Free Talk Live. Phones open here if you want to join us. 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Is the LBRY token a so-called security? What is LBRY? Well, that's one of the things we've been discussing over the last couple segments. With you tonight, it's Ian.
Nobody.
Library is an interesting technology, and we're big fans of it here on Free Talk Live. In fact, we've been putting our videos up there for years. You can go to our Odyssey channel and subscribe to us there. Thank you to the over 1,000 people who are subscribing to us on Odyssey. Head over to video.freetalklive.com. That'll take you right to the channel. We do live streaming on Odyssey as well, so you can watch the show live, and of course you can watch it later on and listen later as well. And hopefully we're going to have some news to announce about Odyssey in the upcoming, let's say, hopefully by this summer. It's going to be a little while. We got a big project going on in the background, and I don't want to say more about it because I don't want to spoil it. But love Odyssey. They do some really cool stuff. A freedom-friendly platform that is based on a freedom-friendly protocol. And it's important to know the difference between a platform and a protocol. Protocol is what? Nobody. How would you describe the difference?
A protocol is a set of rules that govern how a communication or a transaction happens.
Right.
So
and it doesn't care who's using it.
It does not.
Right. It's agnostic to that sort of thing. Whereas a platform uses protocols to communicate, but it's used by a central manager to whatever purpose its ends are, and they can decide what exists on that platform.
Yeah, so Odyssey is more or less the same as the client program that you might have on your desktop computer to use Library Coin. It just happens to speak to Library and then to transmit that information over the web instead of directly from your CPU to your monitor.
And Odyssey does a little bit more than that, and that's one of the reasons why they actually recently spun Odyssey off from Library. It's now its own separate company, and that's because Odyssey had started bringing in more centralization in order to, let's say, speed up the service of certain videos that are not being hosted in a lot of places, because as we were explaining before, Library is essentially a protocol that allows people to share media, but if you don't have a whole lot of people sharing the media, they may not go very quickly, right? Like the downloads might be slow. And so they actually did implement centralized content delivery into Odyssey. And for instance, that's how you have to have live streaming for the most part. There are starting to be some decentralized live streaming options, but they're pretty early out there. We tested one of them called PeerTube last year, and it was rough.
Really?
Yeah, it's not.
What were the issues with it?
It's just not ready for prime time yet. I don't remember. It was something we were testing right before the raid, and I haven't gone back to it since then.
Because I've played with PeerTube a little bit. And,
there were bugs. That's all I can say. There were bugs. That's all I can say.
Oh, okay.
Just bugs that you wouldn't want your users having to deal with, and it just wasn't ready.
Gotcha.
So, but the tech is there and it's coming along. So I would say within the next few years, decentralized video streaming will be more of an accessible thing. But for now, if you're looking at a video stream live on the internet, 99% of the time it's coming from a centralized server. So Odyssey had implemented some of these more centralized systems, and so Library and Odyssey kind of did a mutual breakup. They're still buddies or whatever. They're still working together. Like for instance, with Odyssey, if their centralized server fails, it will fall back to the Library network. So it is still tied into Library, but there's other stuff built on top of it.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So we continue here. We'll also look at the question is, are these tokens that Library has a security as well?
Who's storing the files,
though? Who is storing which files?
I mean, when you upload your Free Talk Live content to Library, and let's leaving Odyssey out of the picture for the moment. It's got to be sitting on somebody's hard drive in order to be served.
Well, Odyssey's picking all that up. So Odyssey is
so Odyssey
it.
has big server farms with a lot of
big time
network attached storage, basically. Okay.
Yeah.
Are, 'cause, I mean, when you upload your Free Talk Live content to Library, and let's leaving Odyssey out of the picture for the moment. It's got to be sitting on somebody's hard drive in order to be served. Odyssey's got to pick all that up. So Odyssey has big server farms with a lot of network attached storage, basically. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a way to get compensated for that in library coin?
Getting compensated for what?
For basically, I mean, the vision that I've always had in terms of serving video was the idea that let's say you just had a token that was good for 1 megabyte. Mm-hmm. Okay, you denominate the thing in megabytes, and basically, so you send somebody a token when you download a megabyte, and when you upload it back to somebody else, they send you a token.
I see what you're saying.
So then the thing you want to do is get the most popular files so you can download it once and upload it many times.
That's not their model, but they do have a pay-for-play model if you want to utilize it. So when you upload your content, you can check a box and say, I want to charge for this content. So by default, you upload for free. Anyone can watch your videos a la YouTube, right? Like anybody who clicks can watch. Or you can say, no, I think this video needs to get paid to be watched. And then you can set whatever price in library tokens you want. We can come back to it. Let's talk first to Jeff. He's in Iowa. He's a professional driver calling us from the road. What's on your mind, Jeff?
Hello. So I just wanted to make a couple of comments about the protests that are going on in Canada.
Sure.
And, so it's the vaccine mandate that kind of pushed this in that direction. But the truth is that, the average person just has no idea the kind of tyranny that truck drivers face on a day-to-day basis.
Oh, yeah. And the regulations you guys have are insane, and that's only me hearing about things on occasion. I'm sure it's even worse than what I know.
It's just obnoxious. I mean, for example, most people believe that the police can't search your car when you pull over. Well, if you got 18 wheels, then that does not count, I mean, it's just, like, there's just so many, like, we don't have the so-called Constitution out here on the road. And I think that a lot of the protesting that's going on in Canada, is just, I think it's just a culmination of, these guys are tired of this.
Sure.
But I hope that they're working on on something in the United States. I'll drop whatever I'm doing. I'll go to wherever I need to go to be part of a United States convoy or whatever.
Have you heard anything? It doesn't sound like you have.
I haven't heard anything. I've heard rumors. I've heard, but I haven't heard anything. And I have mad respect for all the drivers that have really put themselves on the line.
They have, yeah.
And who, they're risking their livelihood, their families.
Well, it really speaks to how far they feel like they've been pushed, right? They are really risking everything, and that's a truly, final act, right? Like, this is it.
Well, so I was just going to suggest that the one problem with this is it's like too much of a central point for, like the Canadian government can eventually figure out how to get these trucks out of there, and then they'll just prosecute a bunch of people and put a bunch of people in jail or whatever they're going to do. A far better protest, in my opinion, is just to hang up your keys. And I'll tell you what, if you had a certain percentage of truck drivers that decided we're not doing this anymore and just stop driving.
Well, hasn't that happened to some extent?
A general strike would also be in order.
Hold on, Jeff. If you've got time, Jeff, hang on. I want to bring you back. We could talk about this because, as I understand it, there are a bunch of drivers who are fed up and are just not going, they're just not driving anymore. But maybe it's not as many as I think. We certainly know that there's not enough truckers to take the cargo that is at the ports right now. So there's a dire need for more drivers. More coming up.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
I'm crazy about My Magic Mud. This is the most important oral care product created this millennium, and I'm not kidding. We all have different opinions on politics and issues, but we all have mouths, and I want yours to be as clean as possible with teeth as bright as they were meant to be. I will never be without My Magic Mud. It's a little surprising, but man, does it work. If you only listen to one thing I say ever, go to mymagicmud.com and get 20% off with code FTL. mymagicmud.com, code FTL.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com. Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 27th through July 3rd for the 6th annual Fork Fest at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Fork Fest is a fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which sold out for the first time in 2021. Fork Fest takes place the week after Porkfest, but Fork Fest is decentralized, which means that there's no ticket cost and no one is in charge. All you have to do to join the fun is reserve your camping site, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 27th through July 3rd. There's no better place to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire. You can find out more at the unofficial website, forkfest.party. You can also connect with other attendees on the Forkfest Telegram and Matrix chat rooms, as well as the Forkfest Forum. You can find links to those at forkfest.party. We hope to see you there. Forkfest.party. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
This is Free Talk Live, and you can join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Joining you tonight, it's Ian.
And nobody.
And you can join us online over at freetalklive.com. We do have a social media site that you have way more freedom to speak if you use it over at social.freetalklive.com. It is the Mastodon platform, which means that it is a essentially more decentralized system because it's federated. So you can connect to other people on other Mastodon servers, and there are thousands of those all around the planet. Plus, it is self-hosted, which means that we're running the server, and there's not some big tech media corporation that's behind this thing. So check it out at social.freetalklive.com. We go back to Jeff. He is a truck driver, a professional that's on the road right now in Iowa, calling in with his thoughts on the protest. You're saying that it looks like, and we did report on this earlier, that now the Ottawa police are saying they have this emergency powers to go in and create no-go zones in the city. They're planning on arresting people who refuse to leave and arresting anyone that tries to come into those zones. So the crackdown may be imminent there in Ottawa. And you're saying that you think the best approach would just be to simply have a mass strike of drivers just saying, look, we're hanging up our keys and we're staying home. We're not going to block anybody's streets. We're just not going to do anything. And then that'll put some serious pressure, you think, economically?
You wouldn't want to limit it to truck drivers, though. Why not make it a general strike?
What do you think, Jeff?
Yeah, of course. So when these electronic logbooks came out, it was right about the beginning of the pandemic.
Oh, really?
And there were a lot of drivers. It was a couple months beforehand, but there were a lot of drivers that quit over it. They said, we're not doing this. And let me tell you, over the last 2 years, actually, I have seen, just like from my own experience, and this is, of course, just anecdotal, but I can't tell you how many times I've heard people tell me, now hurry as quickly as you can because that factory that you're going to, they're shut down until you get there waiting for your stuff. Or
wow.
I get approached with people that have loads for me to take, but they'll only give me a load if I've got another driver because they need the stuff. They
don't have time for you to sleep.
They don't have time, and I've noticed that the rates over last year, the rates have been double to triple.
Wow, meaning what you get paid?
Well, what the truck gets paid. So I happen to have my own truck and I have my own business.
Right.
But company drivers, they still get their same 50 cents a mile or whatever it is.
But the company is doubling the rates.
The companies are getting they're taking it to the bank. So I mean, last year was actually a pretty good year for me because of that.
Right. Well, it's going to be tough for people to walk away from that, right? Like if it's good money and people need help, then it's going to be tough.
So last year I was saving a little bit aside because I figured that there might come a point where I need to park my truck. And so, if there's a massive movement, I will absolutely be part of that because, like I say, I've been blessed or lucky or however you want to, to be able to do that. But most of these truck drivers, they live in their truck. They don't even have a home, or a lot of them don't even have a home that they go to. They don't pay rent. So why would you if you're only going home for a weekend a month or whatever else?
Yeah, if you don't have a family sitting there waiting for you, then you don't need it.
So if there's any group of people that can bring this, I mean, it's the truckers. And
okay, so Jeff, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just looked up a statistic I'd been wondering about over the last few weeks. Just now finally looked it up. According to truckinfo.net, there are an estimated 1 out of 9 truckers are independent, meaning the majority of those are owner-operators as far as the 1 in 9. So let's say 1 out of 9 are independent drivers. They have the freedom to choose their jobs and their who they're working for, that kind of thing.
It's more than that.
You think so?
But yeah, because they're counting. Like if you're leased onto a company, then they're not counting that as independent. But so there are companies that they're just a company that drivers lease onto, and they pretty much have. So they're talking about people that have their own authority, which is their permission to drive. So if you're leased onto something, then you're just as independent, but you have to put the name of that company on your door, and they probably. That would be my guess.
What do you think if it's not 1 out of 9? What do you think the real statistic is?
I'd probably guess more like 50%.
50%. Okay. Well, then in that case,
that'd be my guess.
In that case, it could be a pretty effective protest if people hang up their keys. Like the corporate drivers are less likely to do that, right? Because they don't want to lose their gig.
They're going to have a hard time because their dispatcher is going to basically say, well. But the other thing is, because of the pandemic, all the trucking schools, they closed down for like 6 months. And so they got like no new drivers, and they're still playing catch up from that.
Oh, interesting.
So there aren't enough drivers out there right now.
And there's a general labor shortage going on.
Oh, yeah.
Cumberland Farms, the local 24-hour store, it's not a 24-hour store anymore in Keene.
It's awful that they're doing that.
Yeah, and the same thing in Concord. I talked to the guy in Cumbies in Concord, and they don't have the staff.
Okay, so let me ask you this then, Nobody, regarding the idea of a general strike. What good would it do? I mean, you basically already have people who are refusing to work. Is the idea that there'd be some sort of an organization?
Hit somebody where they're already hurt. If you get a good shot on somebody's bicep, for example, in martial arts, you continue to work that same spot where they're already hurting. So if you've got a labor shortage, and then you have people who would ordinarily be working during that labor shortage saying, I'm not going to, that makes things even worse.
And the idea would be that you would make some sort of a public statement and say, we're not going to work until X, Y, and Z, meaning that roll back the whatever mask restrictions and things like that. Would that be the plan?
I would imagine, yeah. And general strikes have been... I think that was a lot of what brought down the communists in Poland. I think that's what Solidarity was doing.
Jeff, was there anything else you wanted to share tonight?
I was just going to say, just a few days of trucks not rolling will bring everything down.
That's for sure.
You won't have gasoline, you won't have groceries, you won't have anything.
Yep.
We are 100% reliant on trucks, and you mess with us and beware. That's all.
That's absolutely true. You guys are the most critical infrastructure, not just in the United States, but all around the world. So I want to say thank you for your service, Jeff.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, brother. Keep us in the loop, by the way. Anything that's developing out there, if you hear anything about an actual U.S. convoy, give us a call. Let us know, because we had Reed Coverdale on the show on Saturday night. He's another liberty-friendly trucker out there, and he says he hadn't heard anything yet either. So there's the reports on social media, which are making it sound like this thing's happening and or coming up, and then there's what the drivers are saying, which is they're not hearing anything. So maybe there's a reality between the two, and we'll find out. Thanks for the call, man. I appreciate it. Enjoy the ride out there.
Thank you.
Yep.
Well, if people want this to happen, then somebody needs to be the change they want to see in the world.
Yeah, that's true.
Somebody's got to start talking, and rather than asking, is this going to happen, they need to
make it happen.
Do the same thing I did with the 420 rally, which is I just started doing it.
Right.
Well,
and you got to tell people you're doing it too.
And I started doing it, and I started telling people I was doing it. So it was just me, Candace, and Noah. Well, actually, the first day I guess was the Glenn Beck 912 rally which you were there for. I guess that was kind of the birth of it.
Was it really?
But
did we get high after the 912 rally or during it? What happened there?
After it, we went up in the went up in the gazebo and got stoned.
And then like a week later, there were 100 people in the park. Was that basically it?
Yeah. Well, the day I got arrested on the 26th, so that was 2 weeks after 912. Wow.
Yeah, and the truckers that went across Canada was a very grassroots thing where some people started it and a bunch of other people joined it. So we'll see what pans out. Let us know as you hear things. The phones are always open here at Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is on the way. We still have to talk about the security question. What is a security, and does the library token meet the definition? I don't think it does, and neither does the library folks. Neither do they. More coming up here. It's Free Talk Live. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper. US President Joe Biden says a Russian attack on Ukraine is still very much a possibility. It comes after Russia said it was pulling some of its troops back from the Ukrainian border. NATO says so far there have been no signs of de-escalation and are demanding proofs of the Russian claims. President Biden also said the US had not seen any evidence of Russian troops pulling back and added, as such, the US is prepared no matter what happens. Meanwhile, UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson says there are mixed signals coming from Russia, as FSN's Giles Gibson reports from London.
After Russian claims that troops are being moved back to their home bases following military drills, UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson chaired a meeting with his cabinet. He says the UK and its allies haven't taken their eyes off the border between Russia and Ukraine.
The intelligence that we're seeing today is still not encouraging. We've got Russian field hospitals being constructed near the border with Ukraine in Belarus. We've got more battalion tactical groups actually being brought closer to the border.
NATO's Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg said he's cautiously optimistic, but hasn't seen any sign of de-escalation on the ground.
Prince Andrew has reached an out-of-court settlement with a woman suing him for sexual assault. The British royal is set to make a substantial donation to charity, as FSN's Sarah Walton reports from New York.
A statement from Prince Andrew's legal team says they'll file for dismissal once Virginia Giuffre has received the settlement, which isn't disclosed but is described as a substantial amount. Ms. Giuffre was suing the prince, claiming that she was forced to have sex with him when she was a teenager, during a period when the prince was friends with New York financier Jeffrey Epstein, who died while awaiting trial for sex trafficking charges in 2019. Prince Andrew had strongly denied the allegations against him. The statement says the settlement will be paid to Ms. Giuffre's charity in support of victims' rights. It goes on to say the prince never intended to malign her character and that he will fight against the evils of sex trafficking.
Lawyers for Helena Hutchins' family have filed a wrongful death suit against the actor Alec Baldwin, who's accused of killing the cinematographer on the set of the movie Rust 4 months ago. The actor has claimed he had no idea the gun that he fired was loaded with real bullets, as FSN's Nina Maria Potts reports.
Alec Baldwin is accused of firing the bullet that killed Helena Hutchins on the set of the movie Rust in New Mexico, a bullet that also struck director Joel Souza. The prop gun was not supposed to have been loaded with live rounds. Helena Hutchins' husband, Matthew, has filed the suit on behalf of himself and his son, Andros, alleging that Alec Baldwin recklessly shot and killed his wife. The actor has insisted he hadn't even pulled the trigger and that he had no idea there were real bullets in the gun.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, the emotions on the ground in the Ukrainian capital Kyiv amid apocalyptic warnings from the United States about the prospects for a Russian invasion. With more than 100,000 troops on Moscow's border with Ukraine, no military strategists envision circumstances under which the country could successfully defend itself against the Russian army. But then what? How would the Russians deal with opposition to their rule inside Ukraine? Ukrainian diplomat Vasyl Filipchuk in Kyiv says many people there do not believe the Russian president will risk a full-scale invasion.
If you make just basic calculation of benefits and losses which Russians would face, it leads every one of us to a conclusion it's insane. It would be the most stupid, the most irresponsible action from Russian side, and you can consider Russians in any way, but they're not idiots to do it. They would be really welcomed here, not with flowers, but with strong resistance. Country has strong army. Country has more than 400,000 people who participated in conflict in Donbass. So country is well prepared. So why Putin would now do it, it's a question which no one answers.
But there are still grave fears in the US and Europe about the days ahead, with top officials on both sides of the Atlantic warning the outcome of Vladimir Putin's brinksmanship is deeply uncertain. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
And the main news again, US President Joe Biden says a Russian attack on Ukraine is still very much a possibility. It comes after Russia said it was pulling some of its troops back from the Ukrainian border. Prince Andrew has reached an out-of-court settlement with a woman suing him for sexual assault, and lawyers for Helena Hutchinson's family have filed a wrongful death suit against the actor Alec Baldwin, who killed her with a prop gun on the set of a movie. That's Feature Story News. Nick Harper reporting.
CEO Jeff Potkel went berserk earlier this morning, becoming drenched in his own blood and the blood of several employees as he viciously demanded the staff produce more web video content, or he would, quote, "f***ing kill them all."
We need more videos! Videos with bands! Random videos! Funny videos! I want a video with a celebrity! I don't give a shit which one! You think this is funny? I'll show you funny!
He threw our office manager's body against the door and then told us that nobody could leave unless we came up with 3 original video ideas. Then he made us watch as he bit his own tongue in half.
People don't want to read! They want videos! They want to sit at work and watch videos! Videos need to go viral! 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 Viral!
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. The phones are open here. And you can join the show all by dialing in at 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. With you tonight, it's Ian.
And nobody.
We're going to go back to your phone calls and thoughts, and you can bring up whatever's on your mind. We've also been talking about LBRY, the decentralized, blockchain-based media sharing protocol. They're under attack from the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission.
Oh, who isn't these days?
Well, they haven't attacked us, thankfully, but the FBI has attacked us. In fact, the SEC went after LBRY just days after the FBI showed up here at this studio. Whether that was a coincidence or not, I don't know, but it sure did seem coincidental.
Maybe they got a big payoff from the bankers.
We will continue with your calls. First, though, we have TJ the Spy calling us from Colorado. TJ.
Yeah, brother, it's good to hear your voice. Nobody, I'm glad to hear that you're out of the can now and can mount a defense against these ridiculous charges.
Indeed. I am uncanned.
Oh, good. Well, I just wanted to let you know, I went out today to go check the mail, and I saw a bunch of a man and a woman looking around James's car, and they went into our apartment building and served James with a subpoena.
Oh, boy.
It's from the United States
That doesn't
District
sound
Court.
tasty.
It doesn't, but it's from the District of New Hampshire, and we're just going to it's one of those things we very rarely get served, but it was the U.S. postal inspectors. They were serving the subpoena.
Those are the cops, the postal cops, basically. They have their own
postal
police
cops, yeah.
division.
Yeah, but, they didn't say what it was about, but we're just going to hire an attorney. As it was one of those things. They said something about the Shire Free Church, and James just said, okay, and took the subpoena. But, of course, they were like, do you know what this is about? And James just said, I have nothing to say. Because, of course, they want to get, like, oh, come down and talk about whatever you know.
Mm-hmm.
And the U.S. attorney, we're trying to get in touch with an attorney to represent James to basically say he's not going to appear, because he'd have to fly out from Denver, Colorado, all the way to Concord, New Hampshire, just for one day to testify about whatever they want him to testify about.
Yeah, something happened with Mark Edgington, or Mark Edge, who's one of the co-hosts here on Free Talk Live. He was also given a subpoena over the summertime last year, not long after I got out of jail. At least this is what I hear, right? Like, I'm not allowed to talk to him, but word gets around. And they caught him, I guess, as he was getting off an airplane, and served him with a subpoena, and he got an attorney who sent some sort of a notice to the court or to the prosecutors or whoever it was, and he didn't have to show up. I was surprised that was possible. I always thought that if you get a grand jury subpoena, they throw you in a prison cell if you don't show up.
Well, the thing you do is tell the prosecutor that you have every intention of perjuring yourself if he puts you on the stand, and then he can't, because if he puts you on the stand knowing you're going to perjure yourself, that's a crime called subornation of perjury, which is what Clinton was charged with back in the day.
Interesting.
I wouldn't try that. I would probably just say the honest thing, which is it would be unduly burdensome. That is one of the things in Rule 17 for subpoenas in criminal cases. If it would be unduly burdensome for a witness to appear before the grand jury, you can file a motion to quash it with the court. The problem was they didn't tell us what the case number was or what it involved, so we can't really bring a suit and file a motion to quash until the U.S. attorney tells us what case this was in regard to. I mean, just reading between the lines, it's James in New Hampshire from Georgiana McDonald, the prosecutor in many, many cases. So it could be anything, but, just take from that what you will.
Yeah, I mean, they certainly seem to have a big thing for activists in Keene and what they could possibly be going after. Well, they're not going after James. They're going after somebody else, right? Like, they don't subpoena you to your own grand jury. So they're...
Yeah, generally not, because,
they drive a tank into your house.
Right.
Yeah, because it's generally, if you are the target of a criminal investigation, they know you're going to just say, I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to remain silent, not say anything, as you have every right to do before the grand jury, because it's spontaneous. You won't remember if you go to trial. And I have seen so many people who are totally innocent think I have nothing to hide. They go before the grand jury and they end up getting indicted because they weren't fully truthful, or they didn't say something correctly. So there's no reason under the sun to ever talk to the feds or the prosecuting attorney without an attorney present. So
they say that a good prosecutor can get an indictment against a ham sandwich.
Yes, that was actually a justice, a very famous litigator of the United States. I forget who said it, but he said you can indict a ham sandwich, and that is true.
Which makes me think that when cops murder people, they should slice them thin and put them on bread. That way they can get an indictment.
Yeah. Well, that's all the news in our neck of the woods, and we'll just keep you informed about whatever occurs.
Well, so the funny thing is, you thought that you would escape all of the trouble by getting out of New Hampshire, and yet it followed you to Colorado. So I'm sorry to hear that happened.
Yeah, it's no big deal, but it's like we said, they can't. Obviously, James hasn't been to New Hampshire since 2016.
Wow.
So it's just like, wow, they must really be desperate for information if they're subpoenaing him.
It does seem desperate.
Not just that, but the statute of limitations is generally 5 years or less on most things, isn't it? I mean,
I don't know.
Unless it's a murder case.
Yeah, it's generally 6 years. And I know that's coming up because the statute of limitations is March 20th, 2022 for the first FBI raid. So I know Mark is working on getting some of the property that was seized from the broadcast studio.
Well, from which y'all's property was already returned. You had requested that you and James were living here at the studio at the time of that first raid in 2016. And I don't know, a year ago or something like that, you got everything back that they stole from you guys.
Everything from our room. And, that worked out. It would have been nice if they would have just handed it back, but we had to sue to get it back and, kind of force their hand.
All right, well, keep us in the loop.
Wasn't I a plaintiff in some suit that you were doing right before the raid?
Yeah.
Actually, that was the thing. You were going to sue because you had standing to sue as a user of the equipment and a member of the Shire Free Church, but then you got arrested before you had a chance to file. So Mark just took over because he has as much standing to sue as everybody else that I know.
Sure.
Right. You would never think that getting unrobbed from the FBI would be so complicated.
Of course, they're arguing now, apparently, in a motion to dismiss, that Mark does not have standing to sue, et cetera, et cetera. So they're fighting as much as they can in this particular case.
They've kind of admitted that they couldn't find any evidence of anything, so why do they want to keep our crap?
Maybe they want to start a Free Talk Live 2, the federal edition. That's the only thing I can think of, because what are they going to do with a bunch of old broadcast radio equipment?
It's just computers. They don't even have like a set of microphones or anything like that. They just took servers. But thank you, TJ, and keep us in the loop. Oh, by the way, we're talking about securities here. Can you define a security? Do you get into any of that stuff?
No, I don't. Like, I know there's a technical definition, and you don't want to sell securities. That, like library, I know LBRY library got in trouble for that.
Well, they're in a lawsuit right now with the SEC. So I mean, it's trouble in that it's annoying.
They're the people they're the SEC. They're the people who show up to the Ponzi scheme after everybody's lost all their money to say Bernie Madoff is conducting a fraud.
So they're investigating Social Security?
I wish they would, but no. Unfortunately, the SEC. They usually, when there's an allegation of fraud or a Ponzi scheme, they'll do an investigation. But if somebody's evildoer, like Bernie Madoff was, they just said, well, he's a big respected investment banker. And it was all the mathematicians on Wall Street who were saying Bernie Madoff's doing something fishy mathematically. He can't be telling the truth because there aren't enough whatever contracts on the Chicago Board of Exchange that would justify his profit levels. So the mathematicians, that's what I love about math. Is that math can allow you to spot lies much better than words, because people usually lie with words. It's much harder to lie with numbers.
TJ, I heard a rumor you're going to the Liberty Forum in
I am going to Liberty Forum in March 3rd through the 4th, or March 4th through the 6th.
Yeah, we're going to be there, so we'll look forward to seeing you.
Absolutely.
All right, see you there, brother.
And by the way, that event is sold out, so thank you for the call tonight, TJ. So if you don't have your tickets for Liberty Forum, you're going to have to buy them on the secondary market from anybody who might not be able to attend. That's the only way you're getting in at this point.
Or if all the tickets are sold, I mean, I've showed up for Liberty Forum many times without a ticket.
Yeah, I don't know. And I don't know what the security is going to be like there. We'll continue coming up. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Brute force, intransigent defiance, adamantine will. These are the hallmarks of the AI tank. These gigantic machines have the firepower of an army, but they also have their own sense of honor and duty. When the world breakers arrive, battle will be joined, planets will shake, and war and peace will never be the same again. World Breakers. Stories from David Weber, Larry Correia, and more. Available August 3rd from BaneBooks.com.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
Are you tired of of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Uncovering the secrets and exposing the lies. That's what the readers of freedomsphoenix.com get every day. freedomsphoenix.com, constantly providing the information, the real news about government policies, and the real relationship we all have with the coercive government. The real condition of the economy, innovations in technology, breakthroughs in energy, health, and computer science. Learn the truth well before it's admitted to in the lamestream media. The corporate media, nothing more than distributors of government propaganda, but now there's an alternative. freedomsphoenix.com. Constant news updates on the issues that affect your life in the most important ways. With liberty and property under constant attack, freedomsphoenix.com provides the understanding behind the propaganda, and it encourages the participation of its readers. Go to freedomsphoenix.com. That's freedoms with an S, phoenix.com. freedomsphoenix.com. The revolution between the ears has already happened.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live, phones are open. You can join us. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. With you in the studio tonight, it's Ian.
And nobody.
And you can join us online anytime you want. Head over to freetalklive.com and enjoy the features you will find there. Coming up, we just mentioned the Liberty Forum is a sold-out event. And that's coming up the first weekend in March in Manchester, New Hampshire. It's kind of like the hotel convention gathering for the Free State Project that happens on a yearly basis, usually. And that's sold out. The Porcupine Freedom Festival, we spoke to the organizer of that over the weekend, Dennis Pratt. He says that is 82%, and this was as of the weekend, so it's probably more now, 82% sold out. So if you're thinking about going to the Porcupine Freedom Festival, you better get your tickets like within the next couple weeks. And that's happening toward the end of June. And the week after the Porcupine Freedom Festival is going to be the 6th annual Fork Fest, happening at Rogers Campground, same place as Porkfest, in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. It is a great little event. It is smaller than the Porcupine Freedom Festival. It's kind of like how the Porcupine Freedom Festival used to be way back in the day, in the early days, meaning completely decentralized. There's no tickets. You don't have to pay anything except for your campsite. You get your campsite or your RV site, or there's some hotel on the property as well, whatever your preference. Register that with Rogers Campground from June 27th through July 3rd, and there's no better place to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire. And by the way, Rogers Campground does a killer fireworks show every year for Independence Day weekend, so it's a great way to cap off the Forkfest week. You can learn more over at forkfest.party, and we'll look forward to seeing you there. Free Talk Live is intending to broadcast from the very same campsite that the RV site that we were at last year. Once again, that's forkfest.party, June 27th through July 3rd. Let's go to Sarah. She's in New Mexico. Sarah, you're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead.
Yes, I heard that the Putin acknowledges the separatists in Ukraine. I guess they want to join Russia. So the Russians acknowledge them because they do not want to drop bombs and kill them. Is that right?
Wait, who wants to kill who?
Okay. In other words, Putin acknowledges that there are separatists in Ukraine who wants to join Russia. So it was on the news today. It was announced. And I think the Ukrainian president, it seems like he is a separatist. To me.
Well, it's generally safe to assume these days that anything they put on the news is a lie. But that's probably true. I'm sure there are people in the Ukraine that would love to be part of Russia, and I'm sure there are people in the Ukraine who would who would hate to be part of Russia. My only concern with the situation is none of our damn business, and we don't need to spend any money on it, and we don't need to spend any blood on it, and we certainly don't need to offer a bunch of young children as human sacrifices, because really what's going on is Biden just wants the tail to wag the dog. He wants to get attention off his dismal, embarrassing performance as half of a president, and he wants to do it by offering a bunch of American kids as human sacrifice.
Yeah, a good war is going to be a big distraction, that's for sure.
Yep. People love that mass murder.
What's in the news, though, regarding this, and I agree with you, Nobody, you have to be skeptical of what the news says, is now apparently Putin is saying that they are going to be pulling back some of the units they had near the border, near the Ukrainian border with Russia.
So they're pulling their unit.
They're pulling multiple units in this case. And
I've seen videos of that.
And purportedly, this is in relation to the threats coming from the Biden administration. So it's Biden that's been rattling the saber here. He's drooling over the opportunity to go to war with Russia, and now Russia looks like they are trying to actually de-escalate this situation.
I wonder if Biden is colluding with the Russians to increase his popularity and steal the next election.
That's a good question.
You know, I do believe that Ukrainian, the president, he kind of sounds kind of iffy. Because wasn't he saying don't?
Oh, he's more than iffy. He's completely around the bend.
Well, I mean, because he was saying, why are you making my citizens all panicky? They're not going to invade. I mean, it sounds to me like he was elected by the Russians to act like they're capitalists, but they're really communists. I mean, it's
you're going to come back to your conspiracy theory again? Your conspiracy theory that both Russia and Ukraine are secretly communist?
Well, I don't know about. There's some capitalists, and but there's separatists that want to be communist along with Russia. And all along, I believe that China and Russia is still communist. Why would they be war?
Well, China is still communist officially.
Oh, yeah. They're murdering people left and right.
Right, putting them into re-education camps, so-called.
Yeah.
But Russia is not officially communist, and I've never heard, except from you...
They're more fascist than communist these days.
Yeah, I've never heard, except from you, Sarah, that there's some sort of secret communism in Russia, and but I don't live there.
I gotta say, I've had the thought, just, you put a ex-head of the KGB in charge of your government, but
here's the thing. You asked me, it's like, why is this American business? It's European business. That's what Biden was saying too. This is the capitalist and the communist system. See what they're afraid of.
No, the capitalist system is leave people alone, make money, and have a good life. The socialists are the ones who are, and the government freaks are the ones who are always killing each other and trying to drag us into it.
Well, what if Russia invades Ukraine and take over? What happens is that the so-called capitalist system, they become weaker. In other words, the Walton family can't abuse people as they have been doing.
First off, there's no capitalism involved in that statement. War is always a government project, and that makes it squarely socialist. Nobody wants war. Nobody's going to go out and buy some war. The only reason that we pay for wars is because they put a gun to our head.
That's right.
I'm a socialist communist, but I would like to be with the Russians, but I do not want to have war either. And that's why it's important. My job is to educate people in America.
But that's the thing, Sarah. What you missed there and what nobody said was that in order to fund these socialist programs and these communist programs that you love so much, there's always a gun behind all of these things. I mean, Chairman Mao, I believe, the communist dictator.
All political power flows from the barrel of a gun.
And he was absolutely right. So you either support peace and you are against the use of force by governments, or you are in favor of war against your own people and you want to force them into these things. Thank you for the call tonight. But these people that claim to be communists but also say they support or they're against war, I'm sorry, it just does not work that way.
Communism is a war
against your friends and your neighbors, and
although they're not your friends anymore once you've killed
declared war against them. Yeah, good point. The number here is 603-283-6160. Phones are open. You can join us and bring up whatever's on your mind. It's Free Talk Live.
If you want to bring more liberty into your community, there's something you should see. Intercoin, the movement you might want to join. If you like Bitcoin, break through. It's true. It's truly something new. If you'd like to see real prosperity, start your own currency, boost the economy. Intercoin, the movement you might want to join. If you like Bitcoin, its impact's hard to overstate, results you can appreciate. If you're tired of relying on the state, want to make your own community great, homelessness and hunger to eliminate, let the wealth accumulate. Don't wait for the growth rate to accelerate. Go to intercoin.org and get the coins for yourself.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper. US President Joe Biden says a Russian attack on Ukraine is still very much a possibility. It comes after Russia said it was pulling some of its troops back from the Ukrainian border. NATO says so far there have been no signs of de-escalation and are demanding proofs of the Russian claims. President Biden also said the US had not seen any evidence of Russian troops pulling back and added, as such, the US is prepared no matter what happens. Meanwhile, UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson says there are mixed signals coming from Russia, as FSN's Giles Gibson reports from London.
After Russian claims that troops are being moved back to their home bases following military drills, UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson chaired a meeting with his cabinet. He says the UK and its allies haven't taken their eyes off the border between Russia and Ukraine.
The intelligence that we're seeing today is still not encouraging. We've got Russian field hospitals being constructed near the border with Ukraine in Belarus. Got more battalion tactical groups actually being brought closer to the border.
NATO's Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg said he's cautiously optimistic, but hasn't seen any sign of de-escalation on the ground.
Prince Andrew has reached an out-of-court settlement with a woman suing him for sexual assault. The British royal is set to make a substantial donation to charity, as FSN Sarah Walton reports from New York.
A statement from Prince Andrew's legal team says they'll file for dismissal once Virginia Giuffre has received the settlement, which isn't disclosed but is described as a substantial amount. Ms. Giuffre was suing the prince, claiming that she was forced to have sex with him when she was a teenager, during a period when the prince was friends with New York financier Jeffrey Epstein, who died while awaiting trial for sex trafficking charges in 2019. Prince Andrew had strongly denied the allegations against him. The statement says the settlement will be paid to Ms. Giuffre's charity in support of victims' rights. It goes on to say the prince never intended to malign her character and that he will fight against the evils of sex trafficking.
Lawyers for Helena Hutchins' family have filed a wrongful death suit against the actor Alec Baldwin, who's accused of killing the cinematographer on the set of the movie Rust 4 months ago. The actor has claimed he had no idea the gun that he fired was loaded with real bullets, as FSN's Nina Maria Potts reports.
Alec Baldwin is accused of firing the bullet that killed Helena Hutchins on the set of the movie Rust in New Mexico, a bullet that also struck director Joel Souza. The prop gun was not supposed to have been loaded with live rounds. Helena Hutchins' husband, Matthew, has filed the suit on behalf of himself and his son, Andros, alleging that Alec Baldwin recklessly shot and killed his wife. The actor has insisted he hadn't even pulled the trigger and that he had no idea there were real bullets in the gun.
From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. The phones are open here. If you want to join us, the number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. What is a security? We still haven't gotten into that question yet. It's Ian and nobody in the studio tonight. You can join us online over at freetalklive.com. We've got a lot of great features, and they're free. So if you want to, for instance, subscribe to our podcast, you can do that. We have the feed that has both the Free Talk Live full episodes and the digest versions of the show. And then there's also different feeds. So if you just want the digest, there's a feed for that. And if you just want the full episodes, there's a version for that too. You can get them all over at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com. As we continue here, just to go back a little bit, we were discussing LBRY, which is the really cool blockchain-based protocol. It's like a media sharing protocol. It came out several years ago. And then in 2020, I think they launched a site called Odyssey in order to compete with YouTube. And they've done amazing work with Odyssey. It's really come along, and they've got a bunch of people that have come over from YouTube, a lot of upset YouTube creators who have had their videos censored and removed and their channels stricken. And they've made the move over to Odyssey. So it's a great little platform that's built on the LBRY protocol. And you can go to lbry.com to learn more about LBRY, get the full node software, and back up the network in that way. Just you watch your favorite videos, and you become a seed, essentially. You become a sharer of the videos that you watch.
They tried to bury us. They didn't know that we were seeds.
Yeah, surprise. Well, they're now trying to bury LBRY with an attack by the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission. They came after them a year ago, actually just about a week, I think, after you and I got arrested and the rest of the Crypto Six were targeted. They went after Jeremy Kauffman, who is the CEO of LBRY. He's based in New Hampshire. He's a great freedom activist who's one of the board members of the Free State Project, and they came after him. Now, he didn't get arrested, but they slapped him with a civil lawsuit, or they slapped LBRY, and he's, of course, the president. Or the CEO or whatever of LBRY. And so he's been having to deal with hiring attorneys and paying, all kinds of ridiculous fees for those attorneys to defend LBRY from this particular lawsuit.
The banker scum are doing everything they can to bleed us dry.
Yeah, well, and this also may be the YouTube scum as well. So the media, the big tech scum in this particular case, they don't like the fact that there is a decentralized alternative, a freedom-friendly alternative.
Oh, yeah, they let you tell the truth. YouTube must hate that.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because if there's a topic you want to see a video on that's a little obscure, a little esoteric, a little dangerous as far as to the system, to the status quo, Odyssey probably has a video or two about it or more. And you can't find them on YouTube. So if you're ever looking for something on YouTube and you're like, well, why don't they have any videos about this? You just go over to Odyssey. There's probably something there. It's a really interesting platform, so check it out. You can go to our channel over at video.freetalklive.com. And really the trick is to change your habit to watch Odyssey instead of watching YouTube. So that's really the real difficulty, right? Because it's easy to go to a site one time, but to make the point of coming back to it again and again to try to find new content, new channels.
There should be some equivalent of changing your search engine.
Yeah. It's just a habit, though, that you have to change in this case. But the SEC is alleging that they're going after LBRY because the LBRY token, which is the cryptocurrency that is the system is based on, is a so-called security. So I pulled up Investopedia here and a page about what is a security. And the general definition here is it is a fungible, negotiable financial instrument that holds some sort of monetary value, and it represents an ownership position in a publicly traded corporation via stock, a creditor relationship with a governmental body or a corporation represented by owning that entity's bond, or rights to ownership as represented by an option. Now, they have two types of securities. One is called an equity, which is a security that represents ownership interest held by shareholders in an entity. LBRY token is not an equity.
Stock would be an equity.
Right. So it's not one of the primary types of securities, because when you have LBRY token, you don't have voting rights. You don't have the ability to decide any sort of thing for the LBRY programmers or the LBRY, company or whatever they are. You have no say in how LBRY runs. All it does is it allows you to pay a fee to access a video online, or pay a small fee to post a video for other people to watch, basically.
So it's like it's goods and services.
Yes.
The suit makes no sense unless it's just pure harassment.
That's all it is. I mean, the type of security definitely doesn't apply. There's a debt security, so there's the equity security, which is the ownership stake thing, and then there's a debt security, which they say represents borrowed money that must be repaid. Obviously, that has nothing to do with the LBRY token.
Wow.
So I don't know what the SEC's argument is. Obviously, I have not taken the time to read any of that paperwork.
The SEC's argument is we've been paid off by the bankers, and we're going to make your life a living hell because they own you.
Yeah, and that's a great point, because even though Jeremy doesn't have the threat of the rest of his life in prison hanging over his head, as some of the Crypto 6 might, in our case, he does have the distraction of having to focus his time and his effort, which is valuable, you only have so much of it, on this case, and answering depositions and digging up documentation and jumping through legal hoops and doing all this stuff, paying attorneys, meeting with attorneys. All this stuff takes time away from developing the thing that he loves to do, which is make LBRY better. And he can't do that now. And he's been mired in this lawsuit for now a year of his life. And it sucks, because whenever you've got something like this over your head, it just takes away so much energy. It takes away so much potential for what you could be creating and what you could be doing. And that's the real tragedy here. Even if if they end up winning this thing, they'll have spent $1 million on attorneys. I don't know if you can get that out of the SEC after the case.
No, the governments are not responsible for their actions.
Right. And they can just bring another suit against some other, nothing stops these people. Even if they lose against LBRY, they can bring a suit against another crypto token.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the only thing that stops them is people out in the street physically preventing them from getting what they want. And that seems to be what we've learned from Canada.
It seems like the best option, as far as if you're a crypto developer, is not to have a business in the United States. I mean, that just seems like the most sane solution.
That, and there's, because of the nature, I mean, nobody knows who Satoshi Nakamoto is. Nobody has to know who Kaufman is. They didn't have to incorporate.
True.
And a truly distributed system is
like Monero. No one knows who's programming Monero.
Right. And
the privacy
good
coin.
For them. Nobody should know. And that's the only way that you can get away with producing valuable products for this society without already being one of the chosen few who are licensed by birth and parentage to destroy other people's productive work. The only way you can accomplish anything is stay hidden, stay underground. Don't let anybody know who you are. And unfortunately, you don't get the fame and acclaim that you deserve for your work, but at least they don't throw you in prison.
Yeah, that's true.
You know? And the other thing is the government just has to go. You know? They have been milking us. They have been driving us like rented mules. They have been stealing our freedom, our lives for far too long, and somebody just needs to put those corrupt rat bastards out of business and out to pasture.
And the best way to do it is to get to New Hampshire, in my opinion, if you love liberty and you want to join the Free State Project. There's more coming up. Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here, and I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com.
Is oral health important to you? If you don't like your own teeth, fresh breath, or kissing people, then by all means, stop listening. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I became passionate about the product that she created and never want to live without it. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, but I find it does much more. They want you to love My Magic Mud as much as I do, so they're giving you a money-back guarantee plus 20% off. Go to MyMagicMud.com and use coupon code FTL20 at checkout. MyMagicMud.com, FTL20.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project early movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
thoughts here. You can bring up whatever's on your mind. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Ian and nobody in the studio tonight. And we're going to go back to your phone calls and thoughts. But I do want to say thank you to BM Simmons, who is a Free Talk Live supporter via our AMPS Patreon, which you can join over at amps.freetalklive.com. That takes you right over to our Patreon page, where you will learn more about what it is. It's helping us advertise, market, promote, and support. That's what AMPS stands for. Free Talk Live. And you help us get on more radio stations around the country and bring more listeners on board with the ideas of freedom. And you get some cool perks, too. So thank you, BM Simmons, for helping us out there. He's a silver level, or she, not sure which, silver level supporter over at amps.freetalklive.com. We continue with your calls and thoughts. Jack in Washington State, you're on Free Talk Live with Ian and Nobody.
Nobody. I've enjoyed you being on the show, by the way.
Thank you.
Me too.
I really like your voice, man. You make the show fun.
I appreciate it.
He's groovy.
I love being on the show. It's just more fun than a box of weasels.
What were you calling about tonight, Jack?
Well, I'm saying this in a very non-aggressive way. It's, we talk, you guys, I listen to you guys 7 days a week pretty much, but with the Shire and Free State and that, but I can't think of a revolution or anything, and I'm not at all promoting this, but without violence, I'm not promoting it at all. In fact, I disagree with it.
Mm-hmm.
The Revolutionary War, the Civil War, you can go on, actually. You can't change anything because the government has the violence on their side.
Yeah, but they don't have numbers on their side. And if you have numbers on your side, as the truckers have proven in Canada, these guys are unarmed up in Canada, but they've got the numbers and they're acting completely peacefully. And the Canadian government is basically impotent to really do anything about it. Now, they may end up rolling in the military or something like that and actually escalating to some sort of violence. But the fact is, if you've got numbers, peace to me is the way. It's the goal, and it's also the way to that goal. If you've got enough people who refuse to obey, you have shut that system down. If they refuse to pay taxes, if they refuse to jump through all the government hoops and do what they're told, it's over. I mean, for the most part, the state does rely, whether we want to believe it or not, it relies on people going along to get along. It relies on the acquiescence to their demands. They have to
maintain the illusion of consent.
Correct.
And the thing that gives me some comfort and some hope is to remember that there's about 1.5 million jackboots in America.
Does that include the military?
Yeah, that's military plus police.
I feel like it's higher than that, but okay, let's go with that number.
Last time I looked it up, they may have expanded their numbers, and I'm only counting each man as one jackboot. They actually each wear 2 boots.
Are you also including like Air Force and Navy in that, or just like Army?
At the time, and this was a couple years ago, it included all active duty police and military. Okay. It doesn't include the reserves, but my point is that long division. There's 300 million Americans. That means that there are 200 of us for each monster.
They're not doing anything. They're watching.
They're not doing anything, and the big thing.
They're well fed and they're entertained.
Yeah.
The big thing is trying to motivate the minds, and that's what we're doing here seven nights a week, is trying to get people's minds working, trying to wake them out of this stupor,
an indoctrinated stupor that they've been
fallen into.
They've been in it since, near birth, right? Like the government system has indoctrinated them for 2 decades roughly of their life, if you include college in there, and
it indoctrinates them every day through the mainstream media, which is just the entertainment wing of the military-industrial complex.
Yes. So we've got a lot of work to do.
I went to Dartmouth for 2 semesters.
Okay.
And I left. I ended up getting the sales, and I left because I was being indoctrinated. It was incredible. They were literally trying to brainwash me. It was obvious that they were trying to brainwash me. And I looked around at the people around me, and except for the stoners, everyone else was brainwashed.
How long ago was this that you were in Dartmouth?
2009.
Okay.
Well, and the biggest thing to me is getting people together in the same place. Proximity is so important.
Yeah.
I mean, geographically, New Hampshire would probably not be my first choice. I moved up here from Florida. Yeah. I hate the cold, but what I hate more than cold is losing my freedom. Is warmth so dear and sun so sweet as to be bought at the price of slavery and chains? Forbid it, Almighty God. To misquote, I believe that was Patrick Henry. Actually, the quote was, "Is life so dear and peace so sweet as to be bought at the price of slavery and chains?"
Wow.
What,
back to the original question, though, how can we really take control and perform this dream that, I think a lot of libertarians have without, and I'm not promoting it in any way at all, how do you counteract the ability of power, I'm going to say it very liberally here, that the government has versus what the power the people have, with the population being brainwashed?
You got to concentrate, number one.
Information warfare.
Yeah. Well, and you can have better information penetration into a population when you have, there's a lot of uns there, but when you have a number of people in one given area, then they're going to come across the libertarian message in political candidates that are running for office. They're going to see it on the listen on the radio. They're going to hear it on television. They're going to be seeing it in mainstream media because we can infiltrate all of those things. They'll work with libertarians at their job. They'll see other libertarians at their church. And then these ideas become normalized instead of just being some sort of freak thing that they see once a year at a political debate.
And the thing is, if you look at, I mean, Joe Rogan has like 10 times the audience as CNN now.
Yeah, that's right.
Brian, whatever his name was, the fat guy who looks like the fat guy from Kramer or from Seinfeld, but he was on there whining. That
on CNN or Rogan?
On CNN, saying everybody trusts Joe Rogan and nobody trusts us, and that's because people are finally realizing that everything you say is a lie.
Yeah.
And that gives me some hope. Some people are waking up as a result of COVID, and they're saying they've given us lie after lie after lie after lie about COVID. What else are they lying to us about?
Everything.
And it's really everything.
And that's one of the reasons why you're seeing such a tremendous level, and Jack, thank you for the call tonight, I do appreciate it, such a tremendous level of interest in New Hampshire and the Free State Project now, with record numbers. PorcFest sold out last year for the first time ever. The Liberty Forum just sold out this year, and that doesn't happen very often. I don't know if that's ever happened except for the year Ron Paul spoke in like 2008.
God, what I wouldn't give for a 20-year younger Ron Paul right now.
These things are happening at levels they've never happened before. The number of movers to New Hampshire, the number of freedom migrants, liberty activists who moved here in 2021 was a record number. Over 1,000 people moved here as part of the Free State Project just last year. So thank you again for the calls tonight, everybody. Appreciate it. If you're serious about liberty and you're willing to take steps, the number one step should be to get around like-minded souls.
Yep.
And then all kinds of interesting things become possible that were impossible before, and it will give you some hope. More coming up tomorrow night. You can join us online at freetalklive.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
This is the Liberty Radio Network, broadcasting the latest liberty-oriented audio content 24 hours a day at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper. US President Joe Biden says a Russian attack on Ukraine is still very much a possibility. It comes after Russia said it was pulling some of its troops back from the Ukrainian border. NATO says so far there have been no signs of de-escalation and are demanding proofs of the Russian claims. President Biden also said the US had not seen any evidence of Russian troops pulling back and added, as such, the US is prepared no matter what happens. Meanwhile, UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson says there are mixed signals coming from Russia, as FSN's Giles Gibson reports from London.
After Russian claims that troops are being moved back to their home bases following military drills, UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson chaired a meeting with his cabinet. He says the UK and its allies haven't taken their eyes off the border between Russia and Ukraine.
The intelligence that we're seeing today is still not encouraging. We've got Russian field hospitals being constructed near the border with Ukraine in Belarus. We've got more battalion tactical groups actually being brought closer to the border.
NATO's Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg said he's cautiously optimistic, but hasn't seen any sign of de-escalation on the ground.
Prince Andrew has reached an out-of-court settlement with a woman suing him for sexual assault. The British royal is set to make a substantial donation to charity, as FSN's Sarah Walton reports from New York.
A statement from Prince Andrew's legal team says they'll file for dismissal once Virginia Giuffre has received the settlement, which isn't disclosed but is described as a substantial amount. Ms. Giuffre was suing the prince, claiming that she was forced to have sex with him when she was a teenager, during a period when the prince was friends with New York financier Jeffrey Epstein, who died while awaiting trial for sex trafficking charges in 2019. Prince Andrew had strongly denied the allegations against him. The statement says the settlement will be paid to Ms. Giuffre's charity in support of victims' rights. It goes on to say the prince never intended to malign her character and that he will fight against the evils of sex trafficking.
Lawyers for Helena Hutchins' family have filed a wrongful death suit against the actor Alec Baldwin, who's accused of killing the cinematographer on the set of the movie Rust 4 months ago. The actor has claimed he had no idea the gun that he fired was loaded with real bullets, as FSN's Nina Maria Potts reports.
Alec Baldwin is accused of firing the bullet that killed Helena Hutchins on the set of the movie Rust in New Mexico, a bullet that also struck director Joel Souza. The prop gun was not supposed to have been loaded with live rounds. Helena Hutchins' husband, Matthew, has filed the suit on behalf of himself and his son, Andros, alleging that Alec Baldwin recklessly shot and killed his wife. The actor has insisted he hadn't even pulled the trigger and that he had no idea there were real bullets in the gun.
From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
Publicists everywhere agreed this week that the nation's celebrities are in dire need of more fame, stressing that all 6 billion of the world's populace should know every U.S. celebrity by name and face by now. Publicists are calling for an emergency influx of buzz, heat, press, and word of mouth to be administered to the nation's celebrities immediately in order to prevent crucial fame levels from becoming dangerously low. Novelist Edward Milligan told reporters this week that in his new book, By the Water's Edge, he has fleshed out in meticulous detail his own huge and stunningly shitty world. Using in-depth research and the power of his own imagination, Milligan was able to conjure out of thin air every hackneyed character, trite street name, and horseshit backstory in the fictional town of Connors Cove. The complete hack proudly said he has created a universe that readers will feel they can actually reach out and touch. Sources say the prolific writer has not yet been punched repeatedly in the face. In other news, McDonald's opens a new senior citizen play place.
This is the Onion News Network.
The latest episode of Declare Your Independence is next, here on the Liberty Radio Network, LRN.FM.
It's time for Declare Your Independence with Ernest Hancock.
Believe me when I say we have a difficult time ahead of us. But if we are to be prepared for it, we must first shed our fear of it. I stand here without fear because I remember that I am here not because of the path that lies before me, but because of the path that lies behind me. I remember that for 100 years we have fought these machines. And after a century of war, I remember that which matters most. We are still here.